All right. Thank you, Frank, and Cable Access TV. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Foxborough's Board of Selectmen. Today is March 22nd, and I'll go through the agenda briefly. At 7 o'clock, we have citizens' input, followed by Selectmen's update. We have a recognition ceremony at 7:15 by the Foxborough Fire Department and others for the heroic actions towards Robert Stanley, and that'll be a nice little ceremony. At 7:25, we're going to go over the 2017 school budget for the Southeastern Regional School. At 7:40, the Economic Development Committee and Lorraine Brew is going to present to us the additional additional alcohol license that's going to be included in the potential town meeting warrant article. At 8 o'clock, we're going to go over the town fiscal year 17 budget, and Randy Scollins, our finance director, will present that to the Board of Selectmen. At 8:45, we're going to have a continued discussion that was started several meetings ago for the comprehensive permit, the 40B domain Foxborough project off of Fisher Street, and I think we're at the position where we can vote to accept the mitigation. At 8:55, we're going to continue to go over the annual town meeting warrant articles for May, and we'll have a town manager's update by a town manager, Bill Keegan. So, Bill, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Is there anyone here for citizens' input? Okay, if we could just ask you to come to the microphone. You are being recorded, and you're on cable access. If you could just state your name and your address.
Sure. Patricia Stevens. I'm at 63 Mechanic Street. I'm here. I talked to the police chief. I'm concerned about the traffic, the speed.
You can't, they can't hear you. The microphone
Oh, okay.
down a little bit
Does he have the speakers on?
Is better?
Yeah, I think the people at home might be able to hear you, but the people in the audience are nodding that they're having trouble.
Oh, I have a loud enough mouth. I'm here because I live at 63 Mechanic Street. The traffic is going very fast on Mechanic Street. If you live on Mechanic Street, which you know, it's out of control. I spoke to the chief. I drove around town. I took pictures, lots of pictures. I was told I had 10 minutes. I didn't know if you could look at them or not. I went down South Street. There's a lot of signage down there. There's no speed limit signs from the center of town on Mechanic until you get down to just before the Ahern School. There's no school sign for the Ahern School. There's no school sign for the Sage School. And there's no crosswalk signs at the crosswalks at any of the schools. At the high school, at the IGO school, I forget the other one's name down the street, further down, and I have all those pictures.
Okay.
I didn't know, the chief told me that the selectmen would need to talk to him and someone in the highway department to if there was a study to be done. I have pictures of the bright green crosswalk signs. They're in the center of town and on Neponset Street, 6 on one side, 7 on the other. And I actually ran into a problem at the funeral home as I was pulling out of the street. I forget what the name of the street is, at Bank of America, behind Bank of America. As I went to take a right to come down this way, there were people crossing in the crosswalk that's right in front of that house, and there's no crosswalk signs there either. So the police that was at the street, at the funeral home, ran across the street to stop cars coming from the other direction. So I don't know what could be done about that. There's no speed limit signs at all from Mechanic Street all the way down Chestnut, heading towards the police department. There's one sign on the way back, up on a tree in front of a white house, and it's a white sign. And I have pictures of that also.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to leave them.
Yeah, why don't we do this, if it's okay with the board? and thank you for coming and bringing it to our attention. So you're under citizens input, so it's very limited what we can have a dialogue
Yep.
on. So if you feel comfortable, if you could leave that information, I'll have a follow-up meeting with Bill Keegan, our town manager.
Okay.
And typically what we do is when people have concerns, I mean, there's answers for crosswalks and signs and speed limits and all that stuff. We'll get together with the police chief and see kind of on a broader reach what can be done or what the issues are and what the perceived issues are.
Okay.
And I'll bring it back to the board under another meeting to see if it goes further. And we've done this on other roads and cut-throughs and things like that as
All
well.
right. I was home last Thursday. I'm very rarely home. I usually work 7 days a week. And I live right in front of the YMCA. I sat out in the sun because it was a 70-degree day, and from 11:15 to 12:45, there were 191 cars that went in and out of that place.
In and out of the Y?
In and out of the Y. Yep, plus a UPS truck, plus a FedEx truck. This morning, I'm up early, 5:15 to 5:30. There were 31 cars that went into the Y in 15 minutes, and 20 went by, just because I didn't want to be prejudiced against the Y. So it's very busy. 191 cars in 45 minutes on a Thursday, 11:15, I thought was quite unusual, but I'm not home that often either, so.
Yeah, no, the YMCA is a very busy business, so, Bill, we'll schedule something, if we can take all this information and in a couple weeks come back with
I
something.
didn't get a chance to label these. I can do that, of where they are and what they are.
I can tell you, everybody at this table and the police chief and the town, everybody knows Mechanic Street very well,
we
so.
Okay.
Don't
These
want
aren't
the
just
labeling.
Mechanic. I took South Street, I
Yeah.
took Chestnut Street, I took Cross Street.
If you
Yeah.
want to label them and drop them off in my office, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
We can do that.
All right,
Okay.
sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else for citizens input? Okay. Under Selectmen's update, I wanted to take a moment, just at the beginning, a moment of silence. If you're watching this broadcast, chances are you knew Joe Heinricher, who passed away recently. Tonight we had his wake, and tomorrow was his funeral. Joe Heinricher is somebody that was born and bred in Foxborough and spent 30-plus years at the school, from teaching to coaching to administration. Has touched a tremendous amount of lives, a whole generation of kids. So our deepest sympathy and hearts go out to his wife Sharon and his extended family. So if we could have just a short moment of silence for Joe, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. A couple announcements. Next Tuesday night, there's a Fox Cares meeting. Do you want to speak a little bit about that? Just let people know.
Yep, so the Fox Cares Group, as many of you know, is a group of liquor license holders in town. Of the 40-some-odd liquor license holders, there's a group of 25 regular members. And what they do is they're trying to promote responsible service, and not to take the place of their regular tips training, but they reach out as a group and they bring speakers in to talk to the restaurants and the staffs as a whole, and they share best practices. And one thing they're doing on March 29th is they're going to bring in Mark Cantonio, who's a tips master trainer, and he's going to speak about alcohol awareness, issues of consumption, fake identification, intervention. And the group that participates in Fox Cares is actually sending their staff to this seminar, and that's going to take place from 3 to 5. But what they're also doing is from 6:30 to 7:30, they're opening up to parents, educators, and students, and they're going to have an open forum for talk about the effects of alcohol consumption, including pharmacological effects and intervention procedures. So this is something that they're doing as a group. They're paying the bill for this. They're sponsoring this, and they're really reaching out to the community and trying to promote responsible service. So if you're in restaurants in town and you see the Fox Cares sticker on the door, they're one of the good guys. So I I encourage people to attend. Oh,
Thank-
it's gonna be at Showcase Live, by the way.
Thanks, David, I appreciate that. And if you want to pick and choose what meetings you go to next Tuesday at the same time, if you live in and around the Neponset Reservoir, this is something that's been going on for years, but they're at the point, the DEP is at the point with their permit, they call it an MS4 permit, which is Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit. So there's an awareness meeting put on by the Neponset Stormwater Partnership, and everybody's invited. That's at 6:30, and it's at the Public Safety Building. And I know there's a lot of people around the reservoir, and past boards have worked to clean up the reservoir and get it to the point where it's at. So if you can make that meeting, that would be good too. I was asked to make a brief announcement on April 1st. This is a good thing. There's a open house that Doug King Builders is putting on for any veteran in town. There's 4 brand-new multifamily apartments on Chestnut Street that were just built, and they're earmarked specifically for a veteran. So it's April 1st. It's,
12 o'clock.
I'm looking for the time.
Noon
Noon, where is it at?
on Dexter Road.
Oh, right at the apartments? Yep, okay, so noon on April 1st, right on the apartments on Dexter Road. So if you ever get any questions for that, reach out to, is Michael Johns? Probably Michael Johns might be a good person, our
Yeah, he's
our
the best
VSO
person,
officer, to give you details on that and some of the logistics. And I want to end on a kind of happy note. I wanted to give a shout out to the J.C.'s. 2 weekends ago, they brought hundreds of kids into the Common. They've been doing this for going on 25 years, and they had like 3,000 Easter eggs. So probably the biggest one they've had yet. Now the J.C.'s, local group, and I think every season they bring something to Foxborough. So this was a tremendous success. So thanks for all the hard work that went into that. So anyone else for anything on the Selectmen update wanted to add?
I'm sorry, about the town hall kickoff meeting?
Oh, yeah, we had a town hall kickoff meeting. What day was that, Jim? It was 2 days ago?
Friday.
Friday.
Last Friday. Very informative, and basically they go through the roles and responsibilities of all the contractors and subcontractors and what the site is going to be like and the security for the site. And one thing, when the chain link fence goes up around that site, that then becomes the ownership of the general contractor. So there's going to be a lot of curious people to see all the stages of production, but please keep your distance and try not to disturb the folks who are trying to get a job done. But it's going to be pretty exciting. I think tentatively they're planning to break ground sometime around the first week of April. And one thing we need to organize is a ribbon cutting, or actually a groundbreaking ceremony. A ribbon cutting ceremony will come later. But pretty exciting time, and I think we're all glad to start to see that there's going to be some heavy equipment up there and a lot of dirt being moved. So, and I know that parking is going to be a little bit difficult for town hall employees. And from what I understand, there's going to be one row of parking left available right behind the building so that citizens can come up and handle their regular business. But town hall employees, I think, are going to be dispersed around the town center. So it's going to be, what's this, about 18 months? Roughly?
Anyways from 14 to 18 months.
14 to 18 months of, organized chaos, but it's something we need to do. It's a tight site, and you'll start to see progress. Hopefully this summer you'll see some things that begin to look like a building. So stand by. It's an exciting time.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Foxborough Fire Chief Roger Hatfield. I don't know where I got Robert from. I don't know.
Stanley.
Hmm?
Robert Stanley.
Oh, Robert Stanley.
We have a few guests.
Welcome.
Yes. Just a few.
Yeah, Chief, you can tell him to come all in. Don't be shy. There's plenty of room.
you need a microphone, so. Good evening to all of you, and I can't start off by thanking all of you for being here, Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, for allowing us to be here this evening and to really talk about a celebration of life. And, you know, on behalf of all of us here in Foxborough, from the men and women of Foxborough Fire Rescue, from all the team folks that we work with, Fallon Ambulance, the state police, local police, we all work at Gillette. It's a very busy season, and we always have situations occur. And in this one, it's a very positive situation that came out of it. And so I truly want to thank Mr. Stanley and his family for allowing us to share this moment with the public, with our town, and we're so excited to see that you're doing well. And so right now, what I'd like to do, on that day, I was the commanding officer. I was working inside the stadium. It's a playoff game. That day, we had Captain Edward Noonan being the operations chief. He was working outside in the parking lots. Captain Noonan was on the scene pretty quickly. He's got a little narrative of exactly what occurred that day. At this point, I'm passing the mic over to Captain Noonan.
Thank you, Chief. And again, I was the operations officer that day. I oversee and assist in any given situation that may arise. On that particular day, Squad 1 and myself were just clearing from another call when we received a call for a man down unresponsive on the P1 roadway. Now you have to remember that it is a playoff game. The dynamics of Gillette Stadium on any given football day, never mind a playoff game in January, you know, the crowds are bustling, the fans are excited, football's in the air, and you know, it's supposed to be business as usual. But as we get this call, you know, we're responding down there, and challenging at best because of the crowds and everything else. So as we make our way there, we arrive on P1, the roadway, and on the sidewalk there's a flurry of activity, and quite impressively we see we now know as Lieutenant Dave McSweeney doing compressions on Mr. Stanley. And I have to tell you, those are some of the best compressions I've seen in a long, long time. And kudos to you, because they were very effective and proficient, and that was part of the whole plan that came together. Prior to Lieutenant McSweeney performing those compressions, Amanda and Veronica were right behind Mr. Stanley, I believe, and it was their initial assessment, their initial steps in CPR that got those parts moving and allowed a team effort to revive Mr. Stanley. So again, you know, Amanda and Veronica were the first ones there. They assess the patient, their training and education and professionalism kicked in. They start CPR, and Lieutenant Dave McSweeney comes in performing compressions until Squad 1 arrives, and that teamwork right there allowed Captain Mike Kelleher and firefighter Corey Shepardson to apply the AED, the auto external defibrillator, and was successfully able to deliver an electrical current that changed your rhythm in your heart. And with that, you know, the Fallon paramedics and EMTs were able to transport you to the hospital, and a positive outcome was had that day. So with that, we'd like to.
Our medical staff was off that day. They were there to enjoy the event and went to work. And with their skills, along with the lieutenants, it gave our folks the opportunity to get there and complete the job. So, fan base, we thank you. Working the details, we thank you. And again, everybody, Fallon Ambulance, all the men and women from Foxborough Fire Rescue. And a lot of people don't realize we have a lot of folks that take part to make those events successful. And Mr. Stanley, those are the folks that allowed you to be here. So we do have a little presentation. I'll get them for you.
Yeah, we do have certificates of appreciation at a minimum for. And while we're going to be recognizing our paramedics for a job well done that day at a later ceremony that we have yearly at an awards banquet, at this time, I would like to give this letter of commendation to Amanda Martin for your actions at Gillette Stadium on January 16th, where your training, experience, and professionalism proved to be instrumental in the act of saving a life. Amanda.
Say right up here.
Yeah, just the left. So Veronica Dowling, for your actions at Gillette Stadium on January 16th, for your training, experience, and professionalism, proved to be instrumental in the act of saving a life. Great, thank you. And Lieutenant Dave McSweeney, also for your actions at Gillette Stadium on January 16th, where your training, experience, and professionalism proved to be instrumental in the act of saving a life. Lieutenant?
You want to bring it down?
Yep, the Fallon guys, that's, I want to recognize Mike Pouliot, Peter Rupsis, and John Raza. And again, they're all part of that team. And again, Fallon is instrumental in that team as they transported Mr. Stanley to the medical center in Boston, and again, just part of that collaborative team. But also Corey Shepherdson and Mike Kelleher. They were first on scene with the AED, and luckily, that one action with a shock, if you will, was able to reverse that cardiac rhythm you had going. So we will honor you guys at a later date, but it's important to recognize them tonight. So, Mr. Stanley.
I have a lot of emotions going through me right now. It's hard to pinpoint which one is really getting the best of me right now, but mostly what I want to say is thank you, and I want to say thank you to so many people. I was lying in the hospital in the ICU unit the next day, and getting thousands of texts and everything from everyone, and a lot of the people here actually found ways to connect with me and communicate. And I got a text from Trooper McSweeney, or through a friend through him, and what it said in that text was Bob, Trooper McSweeney basically said, you were in real tough shape that day. You didn't look like you were going to make it. And he said, but the stars aligned themselves, and everyone was in the right place at the right time. And he was absolutely right. I had the perfect group of people, just from the fans walking by all the way up to the professional staff, that saved my life. When I was walking into that game that day, I had no idea this was coming. I was looking forward to the Patriots playoff game. I've been looking forward to it all week. And I was about 50 yards from the entrance. I felt a little tired. I stepped aside, and I had about 2 seconds warning, felt a little dizzy, and I went down. And from that point on, the clock started. And from what I hear, I had about 3 to 5 to 6 minutes, for people to come through for me, and they came through for me like you wouldn't believe. There's so many other places that this could have happened, and I wouldn't be standing here right now. So my life going forward, I'm going to try and make a little difference and do some things differently, because I know I may not have been here. So again, I want to say thank you. Thank you from my family. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my whole community back in Dedham that supports me. And I want to say thank you to everyone, to all you people, town of Foxborough. I realize it's quite a organization from the bottom all the way up to the top, that gets into place the right people for this, because I'm sure this happens a lot, but this time it happened to me, and just everything that Foxborough has done by having those right people there at the right time, I'm here right now. And I just can't, I've said before, I can't say thank you enough to everyone. So again, thank you all. Thank you, the selectmen, thank you. the-
Thank you, Mr. Stanley, and members of your family. I'll try to speak for the board as best as I can here. Very nice for you to come back. I know it's not easy. I'm sure you have a new lease on life, and that's something that I'm sure you're very lucky to have. Speaking from, when you say from the bottom of the top, so if we're the top, let me just say this: to see a room with our chief, lieutenant, captain, EMTs, ambulance staff, firefighters. We're a small town, and these people have personalities and faces, and we know them. So we put a lot of pride in our fire staff, police and fire, because our lives depend on it as well, and they're very well trained. So you did, unfortunate for you, but fortunate that you fell in the town of Foxborough. So I can't be more proud of the people that we have in our fire department, and I wish you luck. It's it's a perspective that most of us don't have because we haven't gone through it, but I'm sure your eyes are a lot more open now than they were before. And again, I appreciate you coming back and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say a few words? This is truly a problem for me because, as the board knows, I've only been town manager for about 2 years. But I was actually town manager in Dedham for 12 years and actually worked with Bob very closely as my recreation director. So I had no idea that it was Bob that went down that day. In fact, I was with the chief when the call came through. We were walking around the stadium doing our usual walkthrough before the game, and the call came through, and he said there was a man down, by the CBS scene building. I had no idea it was you, but they were monitoring the situation very, very closely, and the good news was that it was coming back, that he was being revived, and that the team was able to get there in time to make it all worthwhile for today. So we're very, very pleased. I'm very proud of all of our staff members, of all the players that were involved in this. We're very glad I'm glad for you personally, Bob, because you're a good friend and a good colleague, and we're just really proud that we're able to make this happen for all of you and your family. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Catch you during the season.
Take a minute break.
Thanks, guys. All right, thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, take care.
I see you saw a few friendly faces from Dedham. Yeah.
Just a few, yeah. A lot of them. They didn't want to speak in the back, but they were there. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that was special. I didn't
It was-
expect
yeah, it
that
was great.
contingency to show up for this.
Great, yeah. Well, Bob's a really well-known guy, and he's done a lot for the community over the years, not just as a recreation director, but he's involved in a lot of different fundraising efforts for other events in town, other different groups. He's the sound guy for a lot of the different events that they put on in town, and so he's really well-known and really well-respected. This was great to see that it happened and everything worked out the way it did. So.
Okay, the next item we have on our agenda is the discussion of the fiscal year 17 school budget for the Southeastern Regional School. So we have a representative from the school. Welcome.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know, my name is Lou Lopes. I'm the superintendent at Southeastern. This is my 11th year there. It'll be my 10th year actually presenting the budget. I'll start off by just saying that on the budget side, for the 9th year in a row, we're going to be presenting a budget that the school committee voted a budget that is at net school spending or at the minimum required by law. So we're able to keep costs down as much as we can. As we continue to our enrollment continues to swell, you'll see that we continue to have a slight increase in enrollment. But what I'm more happy about is not just the increase in enrollment, but it's the fact that our graduates are excelling and our students are excelling. In fact, last year, the senior class earned over $850,000, while seniors through our cooperative education career placement program. And not just that, also, I'm sure you've seen the tremendous growth we've had academically in academic performance, and that's showing with more and more of our students going on and being successful in higher education. In fact, just this past week, we had 2 students, one get accepted full ride to Stonehill, another one full ride to Providence College. So we're trying to work very hard at meeting both our missions, which is prepare kids for college and careers. So our total budget, I'll just kind of go quickly over the school budget. I know you have a pretty lengthy agenda, and then I'll concentrate more on Foxborough. But our total budget request, $25,531,215, is up 3.9% from the previous year. And it's very close to the enrollment increase, which is up 3.7%. As you may know, we're oversubscribed. Last year, actually, I'll use this year's numbers. We've already received 870 applications for the fall. We only accept 375 students. So we'll probably, by the time September comes around, we'll probably have close to 1,000 applicants for those 375 slots. This year, we had the 375 slots. We actually started with 378 students because we had a couple of repeat students, and those same 378 are still our students. So I always like to say one way you can measure a school's success is kids' voices, their feet, and they can talk with their feet, and and they have a lot of options of great schools in these communities 9 communities that we serve. And the fact that we're attracting them and then keeping them, and then not only through graduation but through successful careers in college is important to us. In terms of Foxborough, the assessment is up. The assessment request for FY17 is $370,255. I forgot my glasses, so which is up $61,000. Percentage-wise, is 19%. Mirrors very closely to enrollment. Enrollment is up 17.4%. Several districts have asked us to take that enrollment, break it down from a per pupil standpoint and so forth. So the per pupil costs are up $272 or 2.1% from the previous year. So I think at that point, why don't I just stop there, and if there's any questions, and I can talk about the school, I can talk about the assessment, how the state figures those numbers, those types of things.
Yeah, is there a formula that the state crunches all these numbers in, and then all of a sudden they come up with a number, and that's how the assessment is determined?
Yeah, pretty much, because we're at school at net school spending, we're at minimum contribution. By law, you have to at least spend that amount of money. And it's based on the aggregate wealth model. In fact, if you really wanted to get into it beyond this chart here, the next beyond the charts, the next three pages show how the formula is calculated. Show the foundation, show the property values, show the income of the residents. Basically, the way under the aggregate wealth model, the state determines how much each community can afford for education, regardless of how many school-age students there are. And they'll say, in Foxborough's case, they say Foxborough can afford $21,628,000 for education, all their students K through 12. And then they look at where the students go, and they apply a number to kids that go to a voc school, kids that go to an ag school, kids that are in kindergarten, middle school, high school, different numbers, different factors. Add all that up, and they come up with a total cost. And then whatever that cost is, so in this case, the total cost is 27 million. This is base cost, so this is minimum.
Yeah.
And so the state says, well, we're gonna pitch in the rest. So a community like Foxborough only gets about 20% aid from the state.
Right.
So that's why the per pupil cost, if you compare that, for example, to the city of Brockton, which is where 65% of our kids, it's almost flipped, where they're paying more like 20 or 30%, and the state's reimbursing them 80%. as far as we're concerned, we get the same amount, the cost is the same whether the student comes from Foxborough or from Foxborough, Sharon, or Eastern. It's just a matter of the amount of reimbursement that each community gets. That's what creates that kind of fluctuation in per pupil costs and assessments.
No, it was actually good to hear that the demand for seats in Southeastern is growing. Obviously, you're executing your mission very well, and it's good to see that folks are looking at your institution as a viable choice when it comes to primary education. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the board? Questions? Superintendent, I've seen you come in for a number of years now. You're very well prepared. You're very comfortable. The school certainly provides a much-needed service, and to what John is saying, the fact that you've got such a heavy number trying to get in, and your numbers are limited of what you can, and they're not leaving once they're in, speaks a lot for the school. And I've seen you've come in during the low times in the budget and thinking outside of the box how to share, when you shared bus routes and things like that, so the numbers didn't go up, and I think Foxborough appreciates that. Anything unique about Foxborough for the feedback from us, or that you need to you from Foxborough with the enrollment?
I'll tell you, I mean, we have a very good relationship. I mean, you know, we go in, we work closely with the middle schools, you know, they welcome us with open arms, you know, and I mean, I wish we could accept more students from Foxborough. I quickly looked at it, about 35% of the students that applied got in, but, you know, that's pretty much, if you look at 1,000 applicants, about 375 get accepted. That's about where it is. No, we do have a very good relationship. In fact, I get a call, I get a call back with the superintendent. Her and I keep missing each other over an issue with someone I think who maybe is not getting in, that's to Southeastern, that's trying to go somewhere else through school choice, and we don't have school choice, so I need to kind of we need to work together on that issue. So no, that's great. It's great to have that kind of. I don't see us as competition. I see us, we're trying to educate students wherever they choose to go. We're going to educate them, and that's our philosophy.
So what kind of outreach do you do when you say you're involved with the Ahern Middle School? Is it a career day or open house?
Yeah, well, we do a bunch of things. Our big event is our open house showcase day, where the students can actually go in and experience hands-on and spend, you know, some time, you know, in those things. We do the thing where they can come in and, you know, and spend a day at the high school. We try not to do that as much anymore, because that would take them out of a day at the middle school. But we'll come in and do a presentation in the fall, you know, to the students who are interested, and you know, those types of things, and then if they're interested, they can come and they have parent visits, and much like you would a college kind of, you know, you know, like I'm going through that with my daughter right now, who wants to be a pharmacist. So we're looking, you know, next 3 weeks we're going to looking at pharmacy schools and the same type of things, you know, that parents would do.
Sure. Very good. Thank you.
Is there an opportunity for students, like say they start high school, 9th grade, and it's not working out good, or you know they want to change? Is there an opportunity for them to enroll in their sophomore year?
There is, and that's a great question. In the sophomore year, it used to be a lot easier. Right now, our sophomore waiting list is the same thing as 300 to 400 students. By the time it gets to junior and senior year, it becomes difficult, particularly in some of the programs that they need hours and safety issues, because they're working on the same exact equipment that, you know, they're going to see out in the industry. But what we're trying to do is expand our post-secondary and getting involved in kind of the college fairs, where we have, and a lot of people know, we have a very strong post-secondary program that's expanding. And we're reaching out to those kids that didn't get in, that maybe you know, a four-year university is not the answer for them. They can come down and in 10 months, you know, get a nursing degree, you know, through the nursing program, through our dental program. We're expanding to include electrical and plumbing within 2 years.
That's great.
So those will be some avenues for those students that didn't get in, but really, you know, it would have been a great spot for them.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, town manager had a question?
Yeah, just the superintendent, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here tonight. In terms of real numbers that you just talked about tonight, in terms of, I know we're up 17%, but what's the real number attached to that, so the residents at home can
In terms of
understand
students,
that?
yeah, 27 students.
27 new students.
No. New students is Let me see here.
4 new.
4 new students, yeah.
over
Yeah,
last
yeah, so, I mean, percentage-wise, it's such a
Yeah.
small number, so you're like,
Right.
oh my goodness, assessment's up 19%, that's $60,000,
Right.
which is still significant.
Right.
I don't wanna, say 60,000.
But it's not huge in comparison.
That's
So when
right.
people hear those percentages, I just wanted to clarify for them.
Right.
So they we're clear that it's not a huge number that makes that differential.
No, it's not, no.
And
just
the
4.
cost again per pupil?
The per pupil cost, it's on the bottom here, and we also broke up kind of what the Foxborough per pupil costs are. It's $13,094.
And is that in line with what town of Foxborough paid?
So the Foxborough one, I have it down again. So this is based on budget numbers for FY17 that were, I don't know where you are in the school department. 11,856. I don't know if that's close or not close, but again, those are preliminary numbers. They haven't been voted yet. So the FY16 is the budgeted amount that's on the Department of Ed site. The FY17 is anything that was advertised or that we pulled out of the papers, and those other ones are accurate.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board? Okay, thank you, Superintendent.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being good to see you.
That's something in his position, he's going to every one of these schools.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
making this presentation.
It's traveling
Not
roadshow.
everyone else, every one of these towns.
Right.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the discussion on the Economic Development Committee for the additional alcohol licenses. So we have a PowerPoint, I believe, it was emailed to everybody on Friday, and I think there was a handout in our packet tonight. Did I miss that? So just to, as you're setting that up, to put it in perspective, we just had a fall-winter town meeting where we solicited 2 additional liquor licenses for Foxborough Plaza. So on the May warrant list, there's an article for a number of additional liquor licenses for different areas of the town.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'm not going to recuse myself from the vote.
Just gonna
Oh,
move,
present?
switch
Okay.
seats.
So I think it would be easier if I
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. Everybody, thanks for having us tonight.
Thanks for all your hard work, by the way. This is a lot of work.
It's
Well-
weird over here.
So, before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute to say a couple of words about the help that we've had from Paige Duncan and Bill Caspera. For the Economic Development Committee, they've done a tremendous amount of research for us and pulled together so much information that's really helped keep us focused and productive, and I think in the long run it's really made a big difference in how far we've been able to come even in this short amount of time. So just want to thank you both. And so we have a short PowerPoint presentation for you to give you a little bit of background as to what the committee's been working on. I'll start off with our membership. We have a really good cross-section of people from the town, a combination of business people, people with development background, architects. We have representation from the Chamber of Commerce. So a really great cross-section, and it really does bring a lot of good discussion to the table. So our members are Mark Grebin Sr., Dan Krantz, Mike Saig, Mike Stanton, Kurt Yagian, Tom Murphy, Steve Cootie, Tim Keneally, myself, Dave Fellman, Paige, and Bill. When we first started, we were given the mission, basically, to work together to attract strong and diverse businesses. We want to make sure that what we bring forward is in support of the town's master plan and specifically the economic development strategy that's in there. Our intention is that we want to make sure the town is identified as a prime location for new and expanding businesses, and we want to do everything, bring forward as many ideas as possible to make that happen. We also are focusing on strengthening some existing business relationships. which is very important. And ultimately, our intention is to make sure that we can enhance the quality of life and the prosperity of our town by doing what all the residents wanted to be seen done with the master plan, which is expand the town's commercial tax base. Let's see if I can break this.
Success.
All right.
I have to use it from the, yeah, there you go.
So, following the lead of the master plan, we focused our discussions on 4 growth nodes. We've identified them as the downtown area, Chestnut Green, Route 1, and the Route 140 South Foxborough Boulevard corridor. We spent a lot of time talking about each of those nodes individually. So for the downtown revitalization of the master plan, we talked about the potential for that being a good area for mixed use. The zoning is in place for that to happen, so mixed use development. We actually have had an application filed by Page with MAPC, and have put in a request to hire an intern actually to help support the Economic Development Committee project. And that intern will work on grants for us and also help develop a website that can feature some of the information that we're pulling together here. We've talked about sewer infrastructure and the need for that, finances being a major issue, and how to make that happen. We've had many conversations about development of the fire station property, and hopes that that will represent a real anchor to development and revitalization of the downtown. And had some meetings with local business owners, and also have a survey planned which Paige has developed, and again, we're hoping that the intern will administer that survey, pull together the results, and bring that forward for us to look at. I'm just going to fast forward to one thing here to show you one of the things that came up in our discussions about downtown revitalization. And Kurt, I know you're here tonight. Kurt has done a project of 3D laser related to 3D laser scanning. Kurt, would you mind saying a few words about, from a technology standpoint, what that really is? But we're getting our first show of it to the Economic Development Committee next Wednesday. Everybody's invited to come see it. Just
So thanks.
a couple of words.
It's
You want to step up here to the mic?
okay. So the tool that we use, it's similar to, if you use an analogy, it's like radar, but it uses light waves instead of radio waves. It sends out a signal and returns anything that it bounces off, and it creates what's called a 3D point cloud of data. So what we've done so far is we've scanned the entire common area, and we're just wrapping up now down the street towards the post office and into the back parking lot behind the businesses in the downtown area to create one big point cloud of data. So what this is going to give the town is a photorealistic and dimensionally accurate depiction of everything in line of sight in that area, in the downtown common area, and all the way into the back parking lot. So it's going to be a useful tool for understanding the volumes and the spaces that you have available, what's vacant, heights of buildings, setbacks, overall square footprints and square footage and those kinds of things. And it can be used for things like presentations to potential people who want to come downtown, or for any other reasons that the town or developers might need dimensional information in a 3D way for those areas that are scanned. So that's what we've done so far. It can be added on to and expanded. This is just the first step to kind of get the downtown area documented. And it, also from a historical preservation perspective, we've scanned the Memorial Hall, so now we have a full three-dimensional model of that down to 2 millimeters of everything that was in line of sight in and around that area, so it's good for historic preservation as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
So everyone is invited. I hope Mike Stanton doesn't mind if I invite you down to the DPW building next Wednesday to our next Economic Development Committee meeting,
What time is that?
7 o'clock. Okay. Okay, so the next note is Route 1 development area. Again, we've had extensive discussions on zoning. There are a number of barriers to development the entire length of Route 1 that are in place right now. So most of the discussion is in that area. A subcommittee has been set up. Dan Krantz is part of that subcommittee. Dan, would you like to speak to just a couple of the barrier topics that have come up?
A couple of the barrier topics as it relates to the Route 1 development, because we're looking really from town line to town line, how to best kind of open up some untapped potential there for economic development. But there's some dimensional setbacks that we're looking at. Little things like increasing buffers and landscaping. There's been some ideas about business improvement districts, and there's just a number of ideas that we've started to look at as the subcommittee that can really just take that corridor and open it up to development. So a lot of work. We're working with local professionals for their input. We've talked to some of the local lawyers, local engineers as to how they see best to assist us in unlocking that as well as getting the input from the planning board. So a lot of opportunity there, and we look forward to reporting back to this board on the direction we're taking.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
I think one of the important things to note is we've actually reached out to MassWorks about the potential of Route 1 and development opportunities, and they are very interested in assisting the town with technical assistance and grants and funding to unlock the potential that's actually laying out there.
Is that town-wide? Or
well, one of the things that we mentioned when we spoke to them was the fact that the downtown is very important to us, and we'd like to try and work Route 1 and the downtown together in any type of funding mechanism, and they didn't say no, but they would definitely take it under advisement, because they know how important the downtown is to the town of Foxborough.
Right. And there is a grant that we'll be applying for in July, right, Paige? Again, hopefully with the assistance of our new intern. So, we've also talked about looking at the Water Resource Protection District, potential Zone 3 modifications, a study on that. Sewer as a major issue there, transportation, discussions about the right-of-way next to the railroad tracks and what can be done to make that really a connective path between Route 1 and the rest of downtown. And just FYI, the additional 122-room hotel brings the total hotel rooms in that area to 276.
That's just in Foxborough.
Just on Route 1.
On Route 1, right.
Informational purposes, Chestnut Green still has one remaining restaurant liquor license. So they do have the potential for development of another business there. And then the Route 140 South Foxborough Boulevard area, we have the new hotel construction going on there with 139 rooms. So there will be a total of 408 hotel rooms in this node. And we have had discussions about studying that area, looking at potential zoning changes to create opportunities for mixed use there also.
where would that be? Would that be like, are you talking across from?
Across from Bradley's Plaza.
Yeah, that's actually zoned industrial right now.
Okay.
So you're really limited to what that can be. So we're thinking that maybe if you go with a mixed-use model, you can actually have, some residential, multifamily in there with some stores, and I mean it's a big campus.
So this Route 140 South Foxborough Boulevard, that includes what we call Bradley's Plaza, all the way
Yes.
down to the Mansfield line, which would include Forbes Crossing.
Correct.
So that's no longer a separate, that's not a separate node anymore,
Right.
it's just one long.
One
Yeah.
section. We have some maps we can show you on
Mhm.
that, too. So, just a little background. In a recent issue of Beacon, quote, "Liquor licenses are considered an essential tool for economic development. They really are the anchor in many places to start development." ABCC application process for existing available licenses takes approximately 3 months, and that's not including the local process that we go through. The average legislative process for home rule petition takes an average of 6 months, and basically, if you don't have liquor licenses available, this can represent a barrier to new business developers who are looking for a place to land their business. They will just drive right through your town, potentially to another town that does have available licenses when they're looking to start their development process. Market competition. Walpole is requesting 5 licenses for 2 specific zoning districts. Rentham has 2 all-alcohol available now. They're looking for 6 more restaurant licenses. And in addition, they have 3 wine and malt restaurants and 3 wine and malt package store licenses in inventory. Mansfield has 9 site-specific licenses available and then 2 available town-wide. In the Mansfield, their licenses are located. 2 in the Mansfield Crossing are available, 1 in the Staples Plaza, 4 downtown, and 2 on 106 near the Chocolate Factory. So those are their site-specific nodes that they have identified for development.
See, I think it's important when you're looking at other communities to stay competitive. You know, all things being equal, when restaurants are looking for locations, obviously they want to have some definitive license availability. It's really not as important to them which town they're in. They're going to look at demographics. They're going to look at traffic when they do their market studies. So all things being equal, they're going to go to the location that has the license available. They don't want to have to wait anywhere from 12 to 14 months to see if a liquor license will become available. So it's a good tool to have in your economic development toolbox, to have those available. Whereas ultimately the board is going to approve the issuance of that license, but to have that available is a good thing to have.
Okay, so Dave is going to present the rest of the slides for you.
So when we first started this, we sent out a survey to all the liquor license holders, and basically we asked, do you look to expand in town? What would you like to upgrade your license if you had just a beer and wine license, or would you a beer and wine restaurant license? We had about a 40% responded. We had requests for upgrades of licenses, 1 from a package store and 1 from a restaurant. The growth node proposals for additional licenses were developed around the discussions with the master plan, always in mind. And I think the additional licenses that we're going to request based on the growth nodes is taking a long-term view to the development of those nodes.
Those requests, Dave, that from existing license holders, do we have any licenses that can exist right now?
No.
For what they want?
No.
Not all alcohol. We have some beer and wine licenses.
Right, but we'll
They already have
go
those.
through the additional licenses and where we can move some stuff around. So the financial impact of meals tax, including alcohol, because obviously the bigger restaurants rely on alcohol, being able to serve alcohol. So the town receives $7,500 for every $1 million in sales of food and alcohol. Fiscal year 2016, the projected revenue is $950,000. So if you do the math, that's $126,600,000 in food and alcohol sales in 2016 townwide. It's a big number, but just bear in mind that's gross sales, that's not net. Each new restaurant with a full on-premises pouring license could add an additional $1 to $3 million in food and alcohol sales. So in the downtown node, we're going to request one all alcohol restaurant license, which would go to the Mandarin chef, who has a beer and wine license now, and they'd like to upgrade that. And that would free up a wine and malt restaurant license to be used townwide. We would also ask for 2 additional all alcohol restaurant licenses, and that would be with the sale of the Legion and development there, and the fire station sale. So there would be a total of 3 additional all alcohol licenses for downtown. This is just a map to give you an outline of what the downtown growth node is considered. So in the Route 140 South Foxborough Boulevard node, we're going to be, Hops and Grapes has requested to upgrade their beer and wine package license to an all-alcohol package store. I think what's happening now is folks from that end of town are driving to Mansfield. So we'd like to keep some of that business here in town. And that would actually free up a wine and malt package license for Normandy Farms, who has requested a wine and malt license to be used in their convenience store, which they have on the campgrounds. We would also request 2 additional all-alcohol restaurant licenses with the potential zoning changes that we're going to propose to the planning board. And I know, we don't know what the full development of Forbes Crossing is going to be, so that would give them an opportunity to develop that, or possibly another restaurant within the Ocean State Job Lot Plaza.
Dave, have you been in touch with the owners of that mall, of the Bradley's Plaza?
Not yet. They're going to be getting a survey, and we're going to be reaching out to them.
I just was wondering what their long-term plans were, and if they're, melding with what you just said.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, that's in need of a
Yep.
wholesale upgrade.
Right, but having that license available opens up the opportunity for them to expand and maybe attract a restaurant.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah, that plaza actually is doing well right
Yeah.
now, so I think it diversify a little bit more would even make it more attractive.
so this just gives you the outline between the Ocean State Job Lot Plaza and Foxborough Boulevard, which includes Forbes Plaza. So Route 1 development, did you go backwards?
Nope.
Was that the next slide? Oh, that's the next slide, I'm sorry. So the Route 1 development node, as we talked earlier, we're looking at some zoning changes to make zoning a little bit more palatable, particularly in the S1 district. There's a lot of restrictions, and most of the restrictions really affect Walpole, believe it or not, by some of the setback requirements. So if we can ease some of those setback requirements, we could actually pull the construction off of the Walpole line and create better use of that developable land.
Closer to Route 1.
We're taking a look at the Water Resources Protection District. In particular, we're going to make a recommendation based on science and hydrology as it relates to the Zone 2 and the Zone 3 protection area for that wellhead. And we're also going to propose expanding the mixed-use component within Route 1. The master plan process identified residents' desire to offer more commercial and development opportunities on Route 1. 95% of respondents viewed Route 1 as an opportunity for Foxborough to increase its tax base. And so that's the basis why we're looking at that. The zoning changes will open up development on the entire length of Route 1. Route 1's 3 miles plus or minus long. There's 840 acres of commercially zoned land within Route 1. 153 parcels, so it's ripe for development. It's the biggest area between Providence and Boston that's open for development, that hasn't been developed yet. So we think that the zoning changes that we're gonna present to the planning board, hopefully, will unlock some of that potential.
Dave,
So-
is the infrastructure up there ready for development, or does some more work, you're gonna get to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
so part of the zoning changes is a step.
Yeah.
Working with Mass Works is a step. Ultimately, we're gonna have to bring sewer. Water is not an issue, but sewer is an issue, and it's, all has to come together.
Mhm.
But, you know, where do you start? Do you start with the zoning? Do you start with the sewer? We think starting with the zoning makes sense, so we can attract the businesses, and that'll bring in the discussion of sewer and
That's a
how to
hard,
pay
that's a hard
for it.
question, it
Yeah.
really is.
So, we have to start somewhere. But we have to have businesses interested to come in there.
Well, but zoning changes would actually allow businesses to pre-position in the event that sewer
Absolutely.
came through, so.
Absolutely, and it'll offer them the opportunity to participate in some of that with mitigation and help fund it. So, so we're actually looking for 4 additional all-alcohol restaurant licenses within the Route 1 corridor. You know, restaurants are easy. It's low-hanging fruit, so.
I can speak from a more regional perspective that Plainville and Rentham are both looking to develop on the opposite end of the Route 1 corridor. And so it seems very clear to me that with the developments already occurred on the opposite end of Route 1, that the corridor is going to start to shrink. It's going to tighten up. And then what's going to happen is that if we don't zone it the way we want it to be zoned now, to be zoned for the kind of development that we want, that we can end up with something we don't want. And I think we ought to be careful about making sure we make the right decisions now and sort of preempt the type of development that we want for that area and the type of development that's most beneficial to the community overall.
So,
Just another question, when do you think you might have draft zoning proposals?
we're gonna work on it over the next few months. It's gonna take time.
It won't be at May town meeting.
It won't be at May town meeting, but we're shooting for a fall town meeting.
Okay.
So, to give you a little history of what's going on, in Walpole, there's a proposal in place for 135 additional hotel rooms, just beyond the Foxborough line. And in the Rentham-Plainville line at the Route 1 495 interchange, has that been permitted yet?
It's in the process.
It's in the process. So 160 hotel rooms, 220 apartments, 140 senior apartments, and a 112-bed assisted living facility. So that's right on the other end of 140. The last thing we want is people driving through our town and not stopping just to do a drive-through. And then, you know, we have 1 million+ visitors that pass through the town annually. So we have traffic. We know we have traffic. It's on the perimeter of town. We should take advantage of that and try and take advantage of those dollars. So in summary, the Economic Development Committee's proposal for additional liquor licenses aligned with the economic development requests of the residents as outlined in the town's master plan. It levels the playing field with neighboring communities, all things being equal. Business development stimulated by restaurant-based liquor licenses will improve the town's commercial tax base. Additional meals tax generated by the sale of food and alcohol will continue to support funding for road improvements and OPEB liability. So if you look at $7,500 per million, 9 additional licenses when they're fully vetted could add an additional $150,000 to $200,000 a year in meals tax revenue. So, do we have 9 licenses to give out tomorrow? Absolutely not. We do have requests, but more importantly, it's good to have them available. So when people come looking for licenses in our community, they want to bring a nice restaurant to a specific area. We have those available, and they're not waiting 12 to 14 months. So.
Thank you both, I appreciate that. Does that conclude the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you'd like a Zumba instruction. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions from the board? I had a few.
No, I think I asked mine along the way, so.
So, one of the, on the second page of your PowerPoint is the 4 nodes, so you're not requesting any more for Chestnut Green, right?
No, there's one available there now.
Is there any talk of that ever getting used? Okay. One of my thoughts is I agree with all of this, but I would like to kind of see if, I don't know if you guys have thought about applying for a couple additional ones that are townwide. That one at Chestnut Green, I really can't see how it's ever gonna be used, and it's landlocked there. So, to have a couple spares hanging there, what if across from Bradley's Plaza really takes off and we only have 2? We don't have any more. We had 1, and we're taking one from the Chinese restaurant in town that is a node, and we're requesting node specifics, but we're taking one from there, opening up anywhere in the town. I think if we're gonna do this, a couple of extras for just in case. I don't know if you've thought of that.
We have thought about it, but it was our understanding that when requesting liquor licenses, they have to be site-specific.
They do.
Doesn't it say in Rentham they're requesting
Those
ones
are-
townwide?
Those are already in place.
Already in place?
Those are already
okay.
in place.
Okay.
Is that the legislature is, because there's been quite a bit of talk at the legislative level, the governor has proposed that that liquor licenses be brought back to the jurisdiction on a local level. And the legislature is pushing back on that request, and my understanding that's been pulled out of the legislation that was recently sent up by the governor about this particular issue, because it's a hotly contested issue amongst legislators. So the one thing that they are saying, though, is that they don't want to have too many licenses out there, because it doesn't, especially if there are other communities that need them and they're not available for them. So I think what they'd like to do is to make sure that there was a plan in place. So how you plan to use those licenses before you start requesting them. So that's the reason why the chairman of that committee and the legislature has indicated when we make such requests that they are specifically designated for certain areas.
Also, isn't there a time limit? Because I know in the Mansfield
Right.
legislation, it was 7 years. If they're not used by 7
be
years,
turned
they're
back.
gone.
Yeah, to the town or
To
the
the
state?
Back
No,
to the
they-
state.
We have that in place for Chestnut Green?
No,
I don't know, I think that may have
that's-
come in afterwards, just more recently, that would.
That goes with the legislation, the original Chestnut Green legislation.
A couple thoughts. I think I'm probably the odd man out a little bit on this. A little more reserved, just from what I'm hearing. And you know, you and I have disagreed
When?
on the approach a number of times. But a couple town meetings ago, there was a push to get a number of liquor licenses and then do all this later. So I got to commend you guys, the work that you did on the zoning and looking at the people that are on this list with full-time jobs. There's a tremendous amount of work that went into this. My concern is, when I look at the numbers, when you put the restaurants and the liquor licenses up there, when you look at Rentham and Mansfield and Walpole, the numbers may be plus or minus, because the wording was not quite jumping out, but it looks like there's about 13 liquor licenses and there's 3 surrounding touching towns. When we add up what we're looking for, it comes up to 10, plus you're looking for a couple more. I'm wondering if we're feeling that liquor is the vehicle to get money into town without looking at the existing businesses that we have. There's a whole bunch of existing restaurants that, if you go on a Wednesday, they may be struggling. And I'm just throwing, like, you go to a pub or a Chinese restaurant. I'm going to go out probably the same amount of times with my family during the week of the month, whether there's 2 or 5 restaurants. So the money that I'm not spending at a local to go to this other restaurant, you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I'm all for free trade, but the existing businesses that we have in town, when you're looking for a liquor license to expand, I can see them saying, yeah, the more the better. But what about the 99, for just to throw that out, and I have no connection to them? They're not going to expand liquor licenses because they have what they need. So on a Wednesday night, they're going to have less customers because they're going to go to 5 new places in town. So that's one of my concerns. That
Jim, are you saying we're at a point of saturation?
I don't know that, but when we're looking at taking industrial or
Because
commercial
you-
land and changing it to restaurants because it's a thing to do and everyone else is doing it, what happens to that tax base if we have somebody that wants to go across 140 into the buildings and it's no longer
I don't think
available?
we're talking about that. I think when we're talking about mixed use, we're talking about residential as well, with some retail and some restaurants. I think with the additional of the hotel rooms, both on Route 1 and in Forbes Crossing, you're creating more traffic. And,
Demand.
you know, let's face it, the higher-end restaurants, they're going to do their market studies, they're going to do their traffic and then their demographics. They're going to do their homework. They're not just going to say, well, there's a liquor license in Foxborough, I'm going to Foxborough. They're going to do their homework. But all things being equal, we want to have those licenses available to make Foxborough appealing to them.
So on the bigger, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but you look at our population, our square miles, we've got a boatload already, and now we're going to add 10 to 12 more, which is equal to the surrounding 3 towns combined, what they're asking for more. It just seems, I don't know if it's a saturation issue or, you know, it's all built 10 years from now and they're all functioning, and we've got a tremendous amount of liquor establishments in town. Is it going to get to the point we're going to say, what did we do? I don't know, but I think that's a dialogue that between now and, you know, whether it happens at this table or happens on town floor or somewhere in between, I think that's a valid question someone's going to ask.
Yep. Nope.
But I think this gives the opportunity to have a variety of restaurants. How many times have you gone to the Horse and Carriage was it in Norfolk? Or there's an Italian restaurant in Norton. How many times have you gone there and seen people from Foxborough? Because there is no horse and carriage type in Foxborough. So I think what you're giving is the opportunity for a variety.
Well, I'm
And then
not
people
disagreeing.
don't have to go outside of town. They can just stay in town.
And I don't think these businesses and restaurants are going to rely 100% on Foxborough residents to support them.
Right.
We like Jenny said, we have to create some variety, and people from Mansfield, Rentham, Plainville. I mean, those folks are already going up to Patriot Place and Route 1. You know, if we get something that's, you know, out of the ordinary downtown, we'll be bringing those dollars into downtown. So,
A question, just to deviate a bit, but is your committee focused mostly on liquor licenses? I'm just wondering if there was any discussion on other drivers of economic development. For instance, if, you know, light industrial, we talked about a biotech campus a while back, manufacturing,
right.
Professional offices, that sort of thing.
So one of the big issues with site selection for those big corporations, the biotech, is public transportation. That's a major stumbling block. So we are looking at that as well. You know, I said earlier that, you know, restaurants, particularly Route 1, it's an entertainment destination. You have a lot of hotel rooms that are going up. You have a lot of residential and more traffic on Route 1 going through either back and forth to 95 or 495. If we can give them some places to stop, they'll spend their dollars in town, and it'll afford us the opportunity to work through some of those other issues with the transportation. Because ultimately the goal is to expand the commercial base with biotech or a office park and some more mixed-use retail, residential apartments.
You know, I'm talking about things like Cabot and Forbes, Miles Standish. They've got a lot of high-tech companies in there. They don't have any public transportation, and they still do fairly well. I'm talking about those kind of companies that, you know, actually, geographically, we're well-positioned between, you know, Boston, Providence, and Worcester. We're right smack dab in the middle. And you could really draw from a large section of New England coming into Foxborough.
Right.
I think, you know, what we've been looking at it as a stepwise process. And again, so you have to have your toolbox, and liquor licenses is just one of those tools. Liquor licenses are just one of those tools, but I think the zoning changes will be key in terms of starting to open this up more. And I think that's where, that type of development opportunity becomes real.
So to really open that up, John, zoning's number one, sewer's number two, or number one, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you need zoning, you need sewer, and ultimately you're gonna need some sort of transportation.
Yeah, because, 20 years from now, we really need, larger companies, high-tech companies to provide good jobs for our kids.
Oh, absolutely.
And, restaurants, I don't think is the be-all and end-all. And to go back to Jim's point, I wonder, I'm going to be 70 years old in 2 years, 10 years. And to say, what have we done? I know we don't want to turn into a saloon.
That's
so
not the goal.
proceed with caution.
That's not the plan.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, it's low-hanging fruit. Ultimately, these other things, to get the broader commercial base, is gonna take some time, so.
I mean, look at, you brought Meditech in. Well, everybody has to go out for lunch and maybe go to dinner afterwards. Meditech is bringing so many people
Yeah,
in.
absolutely.
And Forbes Crossing right now is in a great position because they will be able to provide those.
Yeah, when that industrial park
restaurants.
spills out at noon and after work, it's a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of folks coming out of there.
A lot of them are going to Mansfield.
We're all
Right,
going to Mansfield.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're running about 20 minutes late, but I know Paige has been waiting patiently. Do you want to just?
Wrap that up, I just
Yeah,
want.
just come up here.
I
Yep.
just want to say that, just to sort of calm some fears, I think as evidenced by the other towns around, just because you have the licenses don't mean they'll be used. The market will dictate, but again, the ones we're going, we're pursuing are Route 1. That's a known area where we do have people coming in. It's not necessarily Foxborough residents. We're capturing maybe some people we're not getting now that will come and go and not necessarily be here. The Forbes Crossing, that node is a clear need, with all the businesses. And I spoke to Schneider Electric again the other day, and they are desperate for hotel rooms. They have a lot of people coming in. They had asked, one of the things that the committee doesn't even know yet, but they were asking about it, something the intern could do where they'd create like a "You're in Foxborough" brochure, something like that, because they're always trying to advise on where, these people come from China, from India, where do they go? So again, we're going to be capturing new dollars, new population, not necessarily pandering to Foxborough residents to try to turn them into people with drinking problems. So, and then the downtown is obviously an important location. We're working heart and soul. It's going against the grain. Downtowns are not really meant to survive in this day and age, but we're going to all fight for it. So that's why I think it sounds like a lot and it looks like a lot, but it's really, kind of tools in your belt that may not be used, but if they're not there, they can't be used. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But
Paige Duncan, I can't say new town planner anymore because
Four
you're,
months.
you're in
this-
it now.
But this just demonstrates the importance of the master plan. It was so many years
It's an
in
importance.
creation.
It's important
It's
action.
finally here, we're able to use it, and we have the sewer coming in. I think Foxborough is really in a good position for really good development. So,
Good, okay, good discussion. So this
Thank you.
is on the warrant article. Obviously, you guys are going to be doing more work in anticipation of May, so we'll keep bringing this back to the table.
It's a great discussion.
Yeah, and thank you all, everyone that participated in the group.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to invite Randy Scollins, our Finance Director, to talk about Foxborough's 2017 fiscal year budget.
See if I can get you back on schedule.
Yeah, there you go. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to just say a few brief words about the budget process and turn it over to Randy for the more detailed presentation. I'm happy to say that through our collective efforts of going up and down the budget process several times during the past several weeks, we have concluded with a balanced budget presentation for you for FY17. I know many of my colleagues throughout the state can say that right now, so that's good news for us. And also, it's important to note that I think we've been able to meet a lot of needs that we haven't been able to meet in previous years. I think that we've taken quite a bit of time to go through the requests that were made. We weren't able to meet all the needs because there simply isn't enough capacity in the budget to do that. But there is, but we've made progress, and this is something that we strive to do every time, without selling the farm, so to speak, in the process of doing that. And I think it's important that we're building capacity into the budget right now that in the staff capacity that we have not had, to the point where As I look at the organization right now, and believe me, I'm not an empire builder, my record has never shown that anywhere I've ever been, but one thing that concerns me is the fact that right now, we have limited administrative support capability within the organization, almost to the point where it's actually inefficient. And where we don't have enough people to do the nuts and bolts types of things that we need to have done in order to make presentations come to life, and to provide the level of detailed information that boards want and committees want in order to make them effective. So this budget actually does that, and it also helps support some of our higher paid executives in the organization that don't have support either. While we know a lot of us do our own work on our computers nowadays, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done on the ground level, whether it's communications, daily communications, or just coordinating meetings and getting people together. It takes time and effort to do that, and we simply don't have that capability built into the budget, into our organization right now. So we've done a better job of that in this budget proposal. People that have not had support previously are going to have some limited support now, and we're also building capacity in the areas that truly need it, in light of the fact that right now the legislative requirements that are being placed upon cities and towns, particularly as it relates to record keeping, is going to be increased over the next several months. So we're building capacity into our organization to take care of those things now that we haven't had in the past. So with that, I'll turn it over to Randy so he can go through the real details that we've gone through the past several months. And I want to say thank you to him and to all the staff members, all the department heads, and all the folks that work really hard to make this process work. Even though I was able to give support to a lot of the operations, I know I had to go around and still give out some bad news to folks that they were hoping to get, things that we simply couldn't support this time. But having said that, every one of them was understood. They were very appreciative of the fact that we made the effort, and that they're glad that we're at a point where we're at least balanced at this point. So, right?
Excellent, thanks,
Thank
Bill. Let's start actually with the, excuse me, at the memo itself, just to cover the highlights of the operating budget first. Then I wanted to cover the capital budget as well, so we've got both the operating and the capital budgets here. So this year, the way it breaks down is our all-in operating budget proposal for FY17 is $69.39 million. That's up 5.1%, or $3.4 million in total. But as town manager said, it is balanced, and it's balanced within our strategic plan. So we did not push the limits of the plan to balance this budget, and so all the things that that Bill discussed that were able to be addressed administratively in some other areas are actually, it's a good achievement that those things could actually be done within the plan, given all of the other things that are now going to be absorbed within this proposal. As far as how it breaks down on the municipal side, meaning non-school, non-fixed costs, the municipal department budgets are up 1.91%, or $294,000. The school department budget is up 3.9%, or $1.24 million. Fixed costs are starting to come back and eat up the budget resources. Once again, they're up 10.8%, or $1.5 million. Fixed costs being our benefits and insurance and pension assessment, things like that. So blended that together, total general fund, municipal, school, and fixed costs are up a total of 5%, or $3 million, again being really led by the fixed costs. Enterprise funds, water and sewer, up just over 7.5%, or $372,000. Just was going to touch on, at a broad level, the drivers of the increases in each area. And please stop me if there are questions along the way here. On the municipal side, about $45,000 is being added into the administrative level in a variety of areas, including the proposed board docs, for application for the board to make things more efficient here. A part-time, non-benefited HR.
Is that
Sure.
is that a one-time or is that a recurring cost?
That's actually a recurring cost.
Recurring, okay.
It is a recurring cost, but it actually allows us the ability to provide that service to multiple boards now, not just this board.
Okay, so it's a platform.
It's a platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Our Board of Selectmen secretary hours being increased by 5 hours so we can, eliminate the overtime. And then reinstating some money for administrative interns, which prove their value over time. As Bill had indicated, what's being supported is to increase the senior account clerk and election registrations from 23 to 35 hours to allow that position to focus on records management, to be a true records custodian. We've got a great record storage system within the town hall building now, but with the requirements that are really incumbent to manage that, to retrieve all the records that should be at the disposal of the town clerk, and to be responsive and manage that, and the fact that the legislation that's being proposed on records management, I believe, is going to require that cities and towns actually have a records custodian. So we thought that was a wise move. In the central maintenance area, we're adding about $20,000 primarily to address an organizational structure that's been proposed to us by the school business administrator regarding, rather than just funding an additional maintenance supervisor to handle municipal buildings, but to actually elevate that position to an assistant facilities person to the director, because what they believe, they don't need another true maintenance workers just focused on that. We need another individual for Tony to be able to count on and go to manage a lot of the maintenance projects.
Randy, will there be an offsetting savings that we're less reliance on outsourced maintenance?
We're primarily doing, the central maintenance folks are primarily doing everything that they can do in-sourced and are managing everything that's in-source that we have staff for, but we don't do everything.
I know that. I
in-house.
just I didn't know if you've noticed any savings that we're going out less for outsourced specialties.
I will say, looking at the maintenance, the central maintenance budget, where we collapsed and we took from all of the municipal budgets, all of their not only utility costs but their maintenance costs, and put that into one central budget. It's actually coming in nicely this year, meaning we're within budget. Everything's being coordinated through the facilities director, and all those pass by not only the facilities director and myself. All those costs, we both review them, given that this is our first year, to make sure that everything that's coming in is something that actually should be coming in. But naturally, Tony's actually out in front of it on the front end when the services are requested. So it's built to work that way, to be efficient.
No, it's
and
actually
not be
nice.
wasteful.
This has been a budget item we've talked about for 20 years.
Right.
So it's good to see it here.
On the municipal side of it, what are the buildings that we're talking about?
The town hall, the public safety building, council on aging, the booth shed, if you will, the Mill Street property.
The library.
And, I'm sorry, and the library as well.
Conservation land too? Not land, buildings?
Yes, and the, well, now we're down to one,
One, okay.
but yes, those
It's gonna be
buildings
down
as
to none.
well.
Okay.
Working on that.
On the police side, about $141,000 in incremental items there. The bulk of that being actually funding the police contract itself. The retirement costs associated with the retirement of the chief, and some minor increases as it relates to some compensation aspects that were underfunded, holiday pay and taser stipends.
So Randy, that $48,000, that's going to be a one-time item.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Although we seem to be in a cycle where it's we're having one-times like that annually, some larger than others. We just had the library director retire last year. So if we get to a point where that we don't have a retirement, then yes, that will fall up. But in essence, we just moved.
Why would you budget for that? Why wouldn't you just set it up as an accrued liability?
Well, it's a good point. The funds that the town has to work with are fairly scarce, so although it's great to be able to sock money away for things that that might happen and occur, if we do that, usually what's happening is you're starving out a more pressing need. And so what the town has been doing in its history is, when that situation arises, we plan for it then, and we have to hunker down in that
It's
year.
a pay-as-you-go system.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. There was $8,000 for some E911 software. Street lighting costs are going up slightly, about $10,000. On the human services side, we're adding, proposing an additional $89,000. We have a part-time Board of Health sanitarian at 19 hours, and that's recommended to increase to 35 hours given the workload there. The van driver hours are being requested to increase by about 12 hours, given the need to be have more service for that. The Veterans Office is going to have requesting to have a new part-time clerk, and that's something that the Veterans Agent has requested for some time. He's been managing all the paper hanging all himself, and it's and I'm glad to see that this was supported. And then in addition to that, the benefits that are have been flowing through the Veterans Office, for veterans benefits, again, are increasing. His caseload is increasing, and the run rate of benefits is increasing. So there's an incremental ask for veterans benefits increases. They're $24,000, and of course we get $75,000 of that back anyway. We have library contractual wage increases. It's $170,000 for the unsettled union and non-union contracts. So that's the, I believe we have DPW and, DPW and dispatch and some other non-union. So that's you won't see that appropriated at town meeting unless it's associated with another article. And then on the good news side, we've actually we looked at AdCom's urging for the second time around. I'm glad they did it. Reduced fuel budgets and tied them right back down to what we're seeing in the market. And naturally, we buy on contract, but we reduced a grand total of $110,000 out of a variety of budgets, including the school budget. And it was a consistent methodology that we used. This may be a short-lived 1-2 year thing, but it's not needed now, and we do budget at the line level, so there's an opportunity to reduce there and to put those resources elsewhere. So $78,000 out of the general fund, $25,000 out of school, and $7,000 out of enterprise. We also moved $67,000 in savings related to the new solar field as a reduction to the municipal department electricity budget. As you know, we've consolidated all the electricity budgets on the town side, and next year, actually the end of this year, should be the start of the new solar field, and we're anticipating the beginning of a revenue stream there. And $67,000 is associated with rate reduction, and there's another $30,000 in payments that are actually lease payments, and that's up on the revenue side. And then across all the other departments, there was another $71,000 in reduction. So that's how we managed to come in at 1.91 on the general funds on the municipal side. School department, again, it's primarily driven by salary increases, contractual increases, and they have 2.1 FTE increase in total, mostly related to SPED. And then their expenses are up $434,000, and again, mostly SPED and kindergarten related. I think it's a good news story regarding the kindergarten program offering now. The schools are going to be phasing in, as you probably all know, a no-cost kindergarten for over the next 2 or 3 years. I believe next year is going to be about a half price from what it's been, and then if it can be absorbed fully in the second year, it'll be free, and if not, certainly in the third year. So that's also absorbed within the school budget. Unfortunately, the fixed costs are the big drivers here for the item. So health cost, we've estimated 7.8% increase based on what we're hearing from Maya, our insurer, and then there's always enrollment increases every year, whether it's related to a retirement or the couple of new positions. So all in, that's driving a $683,000 increase in health insurance.
Is any of that experience-based?
How do you mean?
Like if you have a bad year with claims?
No, it's
you'll be considered a higher risk, so your rates will go up.
No, we're part of a pool.
Okay, so we're not driving the pool.
No.
So okay.
Yeah, it's,
This is just market-based increases.
exactly, and it varies. You know, we do get rewarded for our experience. You know, so those who have worse experience are gonna get a higher increase from Maya. Those who are a little bit better are gonna get a lower increase. I believe the increases ranged from, was it 6 to 12 or something like that this year?
6 to 12, and it's based, that's claims-based.
Okay, we're in a
Yeah.
pool, but experience does factor
Yes.
into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but so, you know, if, on the experience-based model, it's usually more of a broader brush. This is more specific-based.
Right.
So we're looking at our individual experience has actually been pretty good compared to most communities. So, but we, the driver of health insurance this year is more in the area of some of the fixed cost items and also some of the Obamacare provisions that are affecting us.
No, for a large group, that's not bad. I mean, we're in a
Yeah.
small group, and we had a 14% increase this year, so
Yeah.
it's under what I would consider market.
Yeah.
This is, we've been more fortunate going back the last few years because of all the plan design changes that we've made. But I think we've reaped all the benefit from that at this point, and so now it's more a function of, again, the Obamacare cost as well as our claims, you know, the cost of claims, you know, the healthcare.
I will say on the horizon, though, there are other changes coming down.
The plan design changes?
The plan design changes that, but at this point, we're going to be talking to the employee group, the Public Employee Committee, to just get their input and see what their thoughts are on that. But we can drive down the cost, but turning the corner on terms of healthcare costs is that employees are becoming more consumer-oriented in terms of how they handle their healthcare costs. So if they have more skin in the game, you're going to be a lot more selective in terms of where they go for their coverage.
Yeah, deductibles are going through the roof.
If deductibles go up, that means you think twice about going to a certain facility when you can maybe get it at a cheaper facility if you can shop that coverage. So that's what we're going towards in the near future, because what's going to happen is that otherwise the cost of providing that coverage is becoming so prohibitive just on the local increase side, but also to the employee itself.
We're at a tipping point, I think, nationally.
Right.
Okay.
Debt service costs are increasing $393,000. 549 of that is associated with the estimated town hall debt service, so we have a $156,000 reduction related to just the natural amortization and the savings that we have with the refinancing. Norfolk County pension assessment is up $336,000. They're still on a very aggressive funding schedule. That's an assessment. And Southeastern Regional, you just heard Superintendent Lopes up $61,000, and then the net across all the other fixed costs is $30,000. On the enterprise side, really the only item of note, and I apologize, I neglected to actually put it in your summary here, is increased costs for the regional sewer assessment. It's going to be up from what we have budgeted this year by about $218,000. And then there also is an additional water tech position that they need in that area as well, and as well as the budget wage increases that they have.
And that's completely in the water enterprise? Water
Yes.
sewer enterprise?
Yes, exactly. That piece, the $217,500, that's within the sewer enterprise account, and that's likely all going to be funded with the sale of flow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the ratepayers shouldn't. It's a relatively tight budget. Ratepayers are not going to be absorbing that. Those are the highlights on the operating budget. Happy to take any questions.
Are you in a position to talk about the CIP?
Yeah, that was next.
That's in
Yes.
here?
We're going to talk about that next.
Yep.
Next, okay, all right.
Before we go to that, we're reducing electrical costs on the municipal side.
Mm-hmm.
Why the increase on the enterprise side?
Two reasons. One is the electricity costs on the enterprise side were under budgeted. And so now that you've got two major treatment plants online, now we're seeing the full effect of that, plus with the rise of electricity costs. We did, Bill, myself, and Roger, we did have a conversation about that. This is the first year of the solar revenue stream, and the numbers are going to grow. They're going to be, healthy six-figure numbers annually. I think it's $12 million over the 20-year life of the project, or 14. So what we had agreed with Roger is that once this actually takes hold, yes, that there should be some
offsets
sharing
against
back
that.
with the enterprise accounts. But since we're just getting off the ground here, and they have to absorb everything within their budget, we thought it best just to start off here in the general fund.
And then with the street lighting costs, where are we with buying back those?
We just engaged a new person who I worked with actually in Durham to get this the program off the ground, because we were running into a previous consultant was not really wasn't pursuing it as aggressively as I wanted him to. So I went back to the person that I worked with, and he's excellent. I mean, I'm going to have him come in at some point and meet you all. His person actually wrote the legislation for the street lighting, so the towns could actually take over the street lights. Extremely knowledgeable. We met with him a couple days ago, and he's already got a plan in place as to how he's going to do that. So it's going to happen this year. You'll see it happen in this fiscal year, next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the board?
Actually, Randy, I ask you this every year, and actually, a lot of it's been answered. From a taxpayer perspective, the taxpayer is saying, what's the town doing to bring more efficiencies to the operation of the town, deliver services at lower costs, and, better, faster, cheaper? And, over the years, this is actually a fairly good list of bringing solar into town to reduce costs, finding ways to apportion rates and other costs to different town departments. So I continue to ask it, and I continue to wonder, are there other towns out there from a best practices perspective that have found ways to reduce their budget? And this is I know the answer, but are there other municipalities that have found a way to reduce their operating budget and still deliver the same services?
There's no magic or silver bullet, for that, but there are certainly many areas, to attack that, tapping into the solar revenue streams. Obviously, one of them centralizing departments like we have with IS and IT. I'm sorry, IS and maintenance. I know you've heard a presentation on regionalized dispatch as well. Ultimately, that's going to be big savings, not where you would expect it. Maybe not necessarily on the labor side, but certainly on the capital equipment side. The replacement costs for the investment in that equipment is pretty significant, and we're just getting close to the replacement cycle. So I'm hoping that goes forward. I know Bill is I don't know if is talking to a neighboring town about another possible revisit to a regionalization initiative.
We think over the next several years that we're going to be partnering with 2 or 3 towns in this area to things such as streetlight maintenance, looking at perhaps looking at assessing potentials, looking at on a regional basis, perhaps even providing some regional health care, regional board of health services, looking at inspectional services to increase the capacity, because right now no one town has enough capacity. So if we're able to combine those efforts to a degree, we might provide better services and at a lower cost overall to each and every one of the communities collectively.
The reason I ask is, we take a look at budget increases of 4%, 5%, 5.1%, compounded year after year. It's outpacing people's earning increases. And, at some point, it becomes, can I afford to live in my house? Because, what's the average tax bill right now? $5,000-$6,000?
It's about 4,500.
Okay.
5,000.
And that's a never-ending slow creep, and if wages are stagnant, it's Foxborough is going to become unaffordable. So it's just always on my mind as to if we can drive efficiencies or look for efficiencies to bring the cost of government down.
Yeah, I absolutely. I know that's Bill and I are thinking about that every day. But I think the other point that I think each of us would make is that we can deliver any number that the board would like to have delivered. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it does translate into services. As Bill has said, I know administratively, the town is lean, and I don't, my personal opinion is, I don't believe that the staffs, that deliver, field service are
Over
not
the
in
years, I
the same
think
boat.
we've done a good job as far as, we timed the issuances of bonds well.
Mhm.
We took advantage of low market rates. So there's a lot of things in place, and if those hadn't been in place, I'd wonder what the budget would look like. So, congratulations for those, and I knew the answer before I asked it, so I had to ask it.
Let me just say something else, which I think a lot of people don't have an appreciation for. But if I look at your budget and I compare that to other towns that say they're doing full budgeting, we're doing full budgeting because we're paying for the OPEB costs, we're paying for for all of our debt services, we're paying for all of our retirement services. Everything that goes into this budget is a fully paid for budget.
All right, we're not kicking the can.
We're
to
not
somebody
kicking,
else.
we're not kicking the can down the road, and we're taking care of our capital needs. We're gonna get into that in just a minute. We're addressing those things because as we go along, without putting all of it on the backs and the burden of the taxpayers in terms of debt exclusions, things of that nature. Now, we're gonna still have those from time to time because, just we simply don't have enough capacity to do that. But over the longer term, strategically, what we'd like to get to is a point where we don't even have to do that. But I think right now, we've got to have those conversations, continue to have those conversations about where we want to be in the long term. Government's going to continue to change and evolve. I mean, there's no question about that. I just see more and more interest on the part of my colleagues around the state to do regional services, primarily because we can't do it all on our own. We simply can't.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. I did miss an opportunity to mention that the debt service for the town hall will be within the operating budget. It is not a debt exclusion. I know the board.
And I think the bigger picture that kind of gets brushed over every year is, we've had discussions before, but they've been very limited and they kind of get cut short. But the people of Foxborough, including, probably everyone at this table, have expectations of what we need. So it's the whole discussion of level service. Whatever's out there now, we keep the same service with the understanding it's going to go up versus level budget. If the budget stays the same, something's got to give.
Right.
And I know the aggravation that not aggravation, but the anxiety when people want things in the departments and want things at town, you've got to say no. So, I mean, you said it a minute ago, it's the expectations. It's at, you can make the budget work to whatever the directive is. And if we're continually saying level service, because that's what people want, and no overrides, and we haven't done overrides, you're going to see the 3% and 5% increases every year until it snows and people don't, they don't mind plowing at 8 o'clock rather than 3 in the morning. It's like people have expectations, they're used to it, and it's hard to go backwards. And if we can find a way to go backwards and people could do without, I think that's where we're at.
Well, and I think that the other thing that you have to weigh out is the fact that if you don't provide those services, what kind of a negative effect does it have on housing values? Because if the expectation is that when you pay a certain level for a home, and you know the taxes that go with that, you have a certain level of expectation for services. And when you don't get that, that changes the value in the equation. So you have to be very careful about changing the.
Oh, there's a fine balance, Bill, for sure.
Right.
It's just that we need to pay attention to the fact that, compounded percentage increases year after year are
I agree with
outpacing people's ability to pay them.
Our biggest challenge is the fixed cost area. And that's what we're really trying hard to figure out a way to get that down.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, right now and every year prior to now, we work hard to balance very tightly within what we have, and there's a lot of needs that don't get met. I'm hopeful that maybe in the next 3 to 5 years that the development that Ginny alluded to, that we're primed for, that you just heard from the Economic Development Commission and the sewer capacity and other major pieces of land in town that are ripe for, or if not in the planning stage, to be developed. Once that all kicks in, I envision that we will rise to a different level than we've ever experienced before in terms of our ability to deliver the services that people want.
Lower the taxes.
I wouldn't say that, but
But it'll help stabilize the
hopefully
taxes.
slow the
Yeah,
slow the
slow the
growth.
progression, that's right, stabilize it.
Yeah, another round of new growth would be great.
And I think that my take is that's what we're poised for. Because I don't know any better than any of you, but that's when I piece it all together, what we're all hearing about and talking about. I think within 3 to 5 years, I think we may find ourselves in a situation finally where we may be able to slow things
Stability,
down.
yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
As long as there's a balance. And if we're hearing mixed development with residential, when you're spending a couple $1,000s per kid going to school, that balance is,
Right, we actually went through that analysis the last time around with the independent consultant, when we're talking about Patriot Place. And one of the things that was pointed out to me, and then I went and I researched it, is, when you add a child to the school system, you're not adding the full average of the cost, the 13,000, 14,000. You're just adding marginal variable costs. And the capacities that we have within our schools today, you could layer on literally 300-400 students into our school system without bursting the school system. You might have to rearrange depending upon where they all fell, but I'm less concerned about driving a 14,000 multiple times every student that you would add. And actually, with the types of developments that are coming to town here, they've proven that they're not driving a lot of student population.
okay.
Just a thought.
Thanks, Rudy.
All right. Slide in.
Capital?
We're running, about, not your issue, but about 15 minutes late, so.
All right, we'll go brief here. This capital committee met a week and a half ago, and what you have is the capital committee's recommendation. Just to be clear, because I know it's going to be confusing in the documentation here, there are 3 warrant articles that deal with the capital committee's recommendations. The primary one, which is the Article 5, which is the normal blocking, what I call blocking and tackling capital items, the vehicles and software, et cetera. But then you also have Article 6, which is going to be the water infrastructure article for about $16.7 million. And then you're going to have what I believe is the next article, which is the Borough Elementary School for the feasibility study. And the reason that one's a separate article, because we have incorporated that in the past, is that the Mass School Building Authority requires it to be a separate article. So just to be clear, there are 3 articles that this list of capital covers. But at a high level, what the committee is recommending is $17.25 million for water infrastructure improvements, 16.7 of that being associated with a new treatment plant at, I believe it's Well 1, Pumping Station Road. And 200,000 of that is to move that over from the closed-out Oak Street project and move that into this project. The next largest item is road improvements, $837,000. Bulk of that is from the state grant, but you've got $217,000 that's flowing into that from meals tax. The $700,000 for the Borough School MSBA feasibility study. Important note on that one is that when that project gets green-lighted, at the end of the process of going through the feasibility study, that's when the reimbursements would kick in from the MSBA. So last time around, we received, meaning the high school, we received 49.31% reimbursement. So if that held up for this particular round of funding here, we could expect about $345,000 back. So I consider this $345,000 of this really a loan, much like we did, some of you might recall, with ambulance receipts for the breathing apparatus, where they didn't have all the money, but we needed to replace that equipment. So we loaned some free cash for that, and then when the ambulance receipts had the money, we put it back into free cash. So I look at this project as very similar to that, because we will take that back once the grant money flows in.
Can I ask a question on
Sure.
that? This year I'm not on the CIP, so I didn't listen to the presentations, but for a feasibility study and specifications for $700,000. Now, the ones that were done in, I'm directing it to you, but I know
Yep.
that you're not bringing this to the table. A feasibility study for $750,000, when I've seen the past 2 that's been done for the Borough School for the, in my professional opinion, it looked like $30,000 to $40,000 range.
The one we just did for the town hall, 557.
557.
Yeah.
So if this doesn't go through and get funding, you don't get the reimbursement from the percentage from the MSBA.
I believe the school the school department probably wouldn't go forward if it wasn't funded, because they're looking for, the MSBA is looking for a commitment from the town to.
So if the town says
advance it.
spend the 700,000, it doesn't get spent until the MSBA says it's a project?
No, right, which they are, I guess, they're waiting for the final. They've been given indications that this project is going to be allowed to advance to this stage, but they'll get that affirmatively, I believe, at some point later this month. But then they have, in order for them to, advance, the town has to appropriate funding for the feasibility study. Then they go forward with the feasibility study, and if everything works out well over this, I think Bill said 290-day process, then the project gets green-lighted.
So I guess maybe it's a terminology. If you're saying feasibility and specifications, is it feasibility, get the concept, get the buy-in, then do design, development, permitting, construction documents? Is that what we're looking at?
I believe the funding here is to cover all of that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's what didn't make sense.
Yeah,
If it's
not
just a feasibility
it's-
study, it's way out of whack.
design, development, too.
Yeah. And if Bill were sitting here, the school business administrator, he would tell you that he believes this number to be, high, but this is what he's being required to, asked to appropriate for this project. So he's anticipating this, if this does go forward, that it will come in less.
Yeah, that figure actually came from the MSBA.
BA.
I mean, and Bill Euchner said it did seem a little high. This
raised
is
his
what,
eyebrow.
this is what the MSBA said, so in order to move along the process, you have to okay it, and that's, we're giving permission to do this, so.
For the record, this number just blows me away.
Well,
I think it blows everybody away.
Yeah, Bill Euchner too, yeah.
Yeah, we were also.
It's the MSBA.
Yeah.
Moving along, 2 facilities for DPW, $448,000. One is for an equipment facility, so now that they don't have the fire station to store their equipment, they do need a facility to store their millions of dollars investment in equipment, within a covered shed. And then the salt storage facility is at end of life, and they're looking to replace that as well. The good news with that is that because of the mild winter that we've had, the cost of the salt storage shed, $113,000, is going to be absorbed within this year's estimated snow and ice budget, both combined the budget and the contingency. So we're doing that within budget. And you've got school-related equipment, buses, $428,000, fire and police portable radio replacements, apparently also at end of life at $384,000. I know the fire chief is pursuing a grant, but there's no certainty of that. $245,000 for DPW vehicle replacements, $125,000 for the turf field concession stand and bathrooms. That's a $200,000 project with $25,000 being raised, that was already raised privately, and $50,000 being kicked in from the school building rental revolving account, and the ask is for $125,000 from the town on that one.
My question to you over the weekend is, why is the town taxpayers funding a boosters facility?
Sure. The primary reason and the bulk of the cost associated with this particular structure is the bathrooms and the plumbing, et cetera. It's not mostly the concession stand. However, the concession stands are run by the boosters, and they're also can be rented out to other non-town entities that actually use the facilities, and they become a revenue stream to help replace the turf field. I did ask the school business administrator about this, and this is common practice. In any town, Attleboro just built a $3.1 million facility, and which included the concession stand. And if you think about it, the boosters who run the concessions, they're just plowing, all the concessions are at their cost, they're manning them, and then anything that they make on that, they're just plowing right back into our youth sports programs anyways. So it's not like it's a profit.
Still,
maker
the
for them.
town taxpayers funding a private group's revenue source to give back to, I mean, I don't think the town should be paying for it. I mean, the existing Ahern facility doesn't have bathrooms at it.
Right, doesn't have bathrooms, but they run the same model, though, in terms of like who runs it and the revenue.
The town
streams, et
doesn't
cetera.
get any revenue whatsoever from it.
If they were to rent that out to an out-of-town group, they would.
Yeah, I can tell you that we just before I came here, we did the same thing. We spent over $3 million renovating the high school field, including the concession stand, the bathrooms. Of course, the major expense is into the bathroom area and the building itself. But again, the philosophy was that the money being raised by that group is going back into the high school, the school programs. So as a result, we're more or less providing a vehicle to help raise money to help offset the cost that we would have to pay otherwise. So it's 6 of one, half dozen the other in some ways of looking at it.
I still see it as the taxpayers are paying for a private group's concession stand, and I don't really think they should.
I think I see your point on that, but the reality is that, as Bill said, that the contributions that the boosters make to the youth sports programs, if they weren't putting them forward, then they probably would be coming out of the taxpayers.
Do we have a total dollar figure, what the final build-out of that campus is?
I don't know that off the.
We don't, but we talked about that during the process, because I thought about the idea of the track and the stands, et cetera.
It just seems like we're doing a piece here, a piece there, where we might just be better served just saying, all right, it's gonna cost X. Let's just do it.
Well, that's there'd be quite a few people who would be pleased to hear that. I think we've been taking the incremental approach because that's the I think the commitment that was made by the school administration is that we wouldn't do this all in one fell swoop because the town couldn't bite it all off at once, but so it's being done incrementally.
But it just seems like we're nickel and diming it and just kind of kicking the can down. I mean, we should know what the ultimate goal is, for the complete build out of the campus and what the total dollar value is.
No, we have those, when we went to town meeting for the turf field, it was phase 1 all the way to the end, so they're all published numbers. We did a full cost
It's probably
estimate.
another $1 million at least, I would think, right, in that range.
Million and a half.
To do
Yeah,
the track.
I think that the pieces that were missing was the 8-lane track, the concessions and bathrooms,
And
the
the
bleachers, and the press box.
Right.
So, but, to your point of, it's a $3+ million and another, it's piecemeal and it's a slow process, but we're gonna end up spending 50 cents on the dollar to get the same product, and that's, the lights were half price, the field was half price, the concessions, 75 was raised privately, 125 public, so that's the balance.
We're raising money too
Yep.
to help build out the campus, and everybody's chipping in to get it done.
Yeah.
It's just
If I
it
thought
take-
the town had the appetite to fund it all, I think it would have been, I don't think it would have passed, to be honest with
I
you.
think that's what you have to weigh,
Yeah.
what the voters will.
And I would think that
Vote
even
for.
the school department, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
no,
off.
no,
I think the understanding is that the school department, I think their priority is to get the schools done, and that was taking a less of a priority in terms of what they'd like to achieve first to get that, even though they're fully supportive of it, but they also think they have other priorities they want to address first.
Other items, $118,000 for fire department replacement vehicles, $100,000 as a continued investment in our townwide network infrastructure, $83,000 for a very interesting fire department integrated database management system. It's going to integrate the data from the 5 different systems that manage, disparate systems that manage the fire department. $58,000 for end-of-life police department taser replacements.
Can you go back up one?
Yep.
That 83,000,
Mhm.
that's for, you said, integrated dispatch system?
Database.
Okay.
Database.
All right. Does that have anything to do with the dispatch
No.
stuff?
Well, it actually, I believe it's going to, right now, all of the dispatch logging goes into a particular system. I see, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Is it-
Yeah, it's the fire side, it's not the police side.
My question at
Yeah.
the end result is, if we talked about regionalizing, are we putting $83,000 Band-Aid on something?
No, this is separate.
This is separate, and not only that, but it's also consistent with the type of equipment they're looking at for the regional dispatch as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
the
so
other
we're
towns
tying
looking for
to
the same thing.
Okay.
Trying to commonize. It's actually gonna help facilitate, to Bill's point, facilitate regionalization, because if we can all be pulling all of the data that run the different aspects of the department into one system,
Okay.
it's then gonna be easier to integrate and manage.
I just wasn't sure if we're putting new money in and we're
No,
gonna leave it.
We pushed in that point very well at the meeting during capital discussion, so it's good, it's a fair point.
A lot of questions.
Has this CIP budget gone to AdCom yet?
Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night?
No, I'm sorry. Last Wednesday, I'm getting behind. Yeah, last Wednesday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So it's already been, everything's been approved by AdCom?
They've considered it. They typically don't vote, the first night
Okay.
they see it, but they've
Okay.
considered it. I think they're, at least it was on the agenda to be considered for a vote tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then 30,000 for an online permitting system, so we can bring our permitting function into the 21st century. And I guess that's supposed to be piggybacked along with some mitigation, anticipated mitigation funds, so we could actually do this townwide rather than just inspections in the fire department.
Okay.
And that is the sum and substance of the capital plan, also within our long-range plan.
Great. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thanks for delivering this over the weekend, too.
Sure. So we're on track with the budget process, and to stay on track, we want to be back in 2 weeks to ask for your
Yep.
recommendations and votes.
Okay, so if the board could, and I know we did get this on Sunday, and actually my neighbor appreciated it because you dropped it off at his house.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I knocked on 3 doors, Jim.
I know. I get a weird call. So if the board could look through this and go, any questions? I mean, because this is probably the biggest thing that we have on the table. And I don't want to cut it short, but, no. I appreciate it because there's just so much information here. Comments back to Bill,
Yep,
and then
and
funnel
send
through
through,
you,
yep.
so it's a little more productive in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And just to, the CIP, there was lively discussions.
Mm.
There
You know, I was
were a
gonna ask how
lot
that
of
went.
questions.
Yeah.
There
I missed
really
it.
were. They were good questions, and everybody was really forthcoming with their information.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really
Was
good.
anybody else questioning what I was?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Good, I'm not.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was
we
fully
had-
vetted, yeah.
but they had the representative from the advisory committee, has similar,
Yeah.
had similar concerns, but everybody asked. It was good. It was good.
And even the discussion about the school, about the concession stand, there was questions about that, too.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I still don't
Yeah.
see it, but.
Oh,
We all think
buy a
alike.
hot dog.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
What
Thanks,
road is
Randy.
that concession stand in? Does it have a liquor license?
It's on the right
All
note.
right, next on the agenda, we're running a half hour late here. So the 40B comprehensive permit, I'm just going to give a quick summary, just so people understand. So the 40B is a process where residential development occurred in one area. It's a dense, big development. It got the town over the 10%. It's outside of the jurisdiction of our board, outside of the jurisdiction of a lot of boards, under the jurisdiction of zoning board. So the zoning board and the conservation brought it through their process. It was approved, it was appealed, it was worked out, it came back to our table, and there's 2 items that we had on the agenda last time. Item 1 is part of the zoning board mitigation that was proposed is install a right lane, so when someone's coming down Fisher Street, they can take a right while someone's taking a left at the lights, with the understanding that there's a $30,000 separate mitigation for them to retime and change that light. So the option in front of this board is, do we have the developer do that right turn lane, or do we hold off and take the money and do it ourselves or do other things with it? Item number 2 is there was a mitigation amount of another 150. So the first one was 150,000, keep it or do the lane. Second one is 150 going towards mitigation, and that's where it got kind of debatable, where some people went to the meeting and thought that the mitigation needed to stay in the area, other people thought it could go throughout town. So there's probably a lot of different thoughts on it. The neighbors came, presented to us at the last meeting their thoughts. We had people from the zoning board. And then after last meeting, we had said we're gonna reach out, we're gonna look at the meeting minutes from the zoning board, do our research, reach out to whoever you wanted to, and come back with some thoughts to try to make a decision tonight, because some of the decision is, some of the permitting process and construction is predicated on us making decisions. And if we don't make decisions, it may go in a direction without us, so.
Do we know where we are on the permitting process? Bill?
It's a good. Yeah, they have not applied yet? Okay. So I usually let it go around the board and I say something at the end, but I wanted to put something out because I've spoken to a bunch of neighbors. I've walked the properties, the cul-de-sacs. I talked to the zoning board members. I talked to building officials. So I didn't know where this was gonna go with 5 people thinking of different things and then neighbors saying what they thought. It could be another going on forever meeting. So if it's all right with the board, I had a suggestion and we can start from there, and if you disagree or wanna change it, we can do that. You guys okay with that?
Mhm.
So going back, the way that the zoning board, the 40B process worked was when it came to us, we asked the department heads, here's the concept plan, here's the design, come back with us with concerns or mitigation. So that went in that path. I didn't hear much back from any of the department heads, the schools, the different boards, and basically my feeling is it was located in an area, it was on the interchange of 95, it was in the corner, and it's, you know, I kind of get the same thing living by the stadium. They said, well, you moved to that place, it doesn't concern me, you deal with it. It was put in an area where it was, there was woods, but it was surrounded by residential and a highway, and most of the people stayed away from the discussions other than those neighbors. And when I heard back from the town was, it's not gonna impact the town, and by the way, we get our 10%, so the project was approved. So I went back to the neighbors to talk about the 2 items, and I asked what, you know, the right turn lane, not one neighbor, maybe one at the meetings thought it was a good idea. I looked at the traffic study, our consultant, their traffic consultant, and I don't know where the heck the right turn lane came from, because it makes no sense to me. And I don't want to build a right turn lane just because it was on a piece of paper. So I just don't see where that came from, or the need, because the consensus is people are going to come down Fisher Street, they're going to wait at the light, and they're going to take a left. And the more of a concern is coming up 140 from 95 where it merges, but in no time was a right turn lane the end-all to be-all savior out there. But at the same time, I don't want to take the money and spend it someplace else, because once it's built, it could be an issue, or the issue could be the left turn lane might not work out.
I thought
The
we
signal.
talked about a double left turn lane.
They talked about it, but the mitigation doesn't include that. It's right turn of the money.
It's that specific?
Yeah.
Oh.
So if we could say to the developer, do the left turn lane, but it's a little more involved. It's Mass Highway, it's changing right-of-way configurations inside of it. So my suggestion on that is, don't do the right turn lane, but let the project get built out 6 months once it's full occupancy, and see what the issue is. It may be a huge issue, or it may be not an issue. And we went through this, or the town went through the same concern when the lodge was built, that it was going to be this huge thing, and the traffic hasn't been a big issue. So my suggestion is to take that money and put it in an interest-bearing account until the last permit for the last house is built, and then add 6 months to that, and then see where it is and let it come back to the table to see if there's an impact or not.
Don't we have a time frame to use it or lose it?
No.
No.
On that, no?
No. My concern is it goes to the general fund someplace else. And I could see if the school department was saying it's gonna be a disaster with the kids because we're gonna have a big enrollment, we need that money. No one said that they needed it. Nobody said that they needed it for this development. So I just don't want it to go someplace else and then 6 months after it's built saying, I wish we
Well,
had
I
that
mean,
money
we talked about
back."
that in the past, where the crystal ball in this project is pretty fuzzy. We really don't know what's gonna happen.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's gonna be a big project. There will be traffic, issues.
Mhm.
That intersection, what's the right configuration? I don't think any of us know.
Yeah, in fact, the 30,000 is to take that light and fix the timing or whatever. It's just not working right, so that may take care of it by itself. I don't know.
And the developer is.
That's part of, that's one of their mitigation, yeah.
In the last paragraph, it says, in the event the Board of Selectmen elects the payment option, that's, there were two options, do 150,000 for the right lane, or you have a payment.
The
option.
150, yep.
And then that can be used for the purposes of such, for the purposes of such roadway improvements and safety as the Board of Selectmen may determine.
Mhm.
So we can use that money for, it's kind of earmarked for roadway.
Yep.
So we can use it for roadway, whether down the road, you know, after your time, whether it's for right lane, left lane, or what. Could that even be construed as like sidewalks, where it's roadway, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there are.
You know,
There's
but that's what I mean, you
sidewalk,
got the
yeah.
option,
Yeah,
that's why
some
they
of the
call it the option.
concerns I heard was
Right.
sidewalk, and it's funny,
Right.
because some developers, they do the sidewalks as part of their project. Here, it's considered mitigation, so it's,
Yeah.
you know, should there be
Yeah.
sidewalks up and down the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna second guess the zoning board in the process, because I just didn't go to those
Yeah.
meetings.
So what you're saying is, we should go for the option.
The option
The
of keeping the
payment
money
option.
and holding it
Right.
until it's built and we see what the impacts are.
Yeah.
And I know there's some neighbors here, so I was thinking we could come up to a certain level and then open it up to the public if they had input.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement. That right-hand turn lane is useless, and if anything, there should be 2 left-hand turn lanes.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then we take that money and go back and look at the second turn lane onto the left. So the second mitigation payment was $150,000, and that's where it gets interesting, because there's different thoughts of where that should go. So I met with some neighbors and walked the site and looked at, and the question was, if this was built, what didn't you get, or what mitigation would make sense? Now, I know that there's a settlement, I don't know what the terms are, I don't know if everyone got what they wanted, but that's kind of irrelevant.
Mhm.
But looking at cars coming out and taking a left or a right, you've got headlights, you've got street lights, parking lot lights, you've got a 4-story building, which just, to be honest with you, is nothing in the area like that. So it is a hardship for the people living in there, whether they got mitigation or not through their settlement, I don't know. But so I asked, you know, what else, you know, could we put berms up and fencing? There's no land left on the other side of Fisher Street, because that's all private. And there's a clear shot across that Fisher Street to that cul-de-sac and all those houses there. So the thought process could be something, but until it's built, again, I don't know what the impacts are. There may be nothing, or it may be so horrendous, you know, we take that money and do something further that wasn't in the plans. And the only twist is, what I'd like to take out of that 150 is 50,000 and separate that, because I think there is some community benefit that could be made that is on the table right now. If you look at the CIP, there's some money allocated to online permitting. What's missing is the building department and the fire, that would, 25 additional thousand would complete the entire town. So if you're a resident or a business or somebody that's doing business in town, you could go online and do your permitting without having to drive in. It saves money, it saves aggravation, it's streamlined. A lot of towns have done it. We're we're just getting GIS over the last couple of years. I think that would help on a complete community-wide basis.
Right.
And then the second, so that's 25 out of the 150, and then the other 25, I would like to finish the effort that the community started with the pavilion from down at Payson Road, because that represents to me different the businesses stepped up, some residents stepped up, the recreation department stepped up, and this addition just about gets us there. It gets us there less $5,000. And I think the $5,000 should come from the different sports groups in town, so lacrosse, football, basketball, to complete it. And then we can get that done, and the complete townwide permitting online or around the same time in short order. So,
But Jim, you're earmarking those funds for those purposes, wouldn't that have to go back through the meat grinder of CIP again and prioritize them?
No, not on this one.
You could actually, the board has authority over this because that's the way it was written into the decision.
yeah. So if you ask some people, and I'll be honest, they think, there's no mitigation needed in that area, it should go to the town. If you ask some of the neighbors, it all has to stay there. This is a little bit of a compromise where the bulk of it stays there. And again, the same criteria as the first mitigation, that we wait till all the permits are issued, it's up and running, the cars are going in and out, the noise levels, the lights, everything is understood. Then the board at that time would say, all right, here's the first mitigation money plus the second, put it together, and how can we fix it, or it's not an issue.
So Jim, are you saying take $250,000 and put it in an escrow account?
250 in an escrow.
An escrow account for future mitigation if a problem arises
In that
with
area.
the traffic,
Yep.
with the traffic situation on Fisher Street onto 140, and take the 50,000 and 25 to the online permitting and 25 to the Lawson Pavilion.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
But would it have to be in two separate accounts? Only because the second 150,000 is the Selectmen's mitigation fund,
Mhm.
okay? But the first one was
Roadway improvements.
roadway,
Yep.
so wouldn't you really have to have just two
Yeah,
just
the
put it into
logistics would be
accounts?
two separate accounts, if that
Accounts, yeah.
works.
Jim?
So, yep, Bill. And I know we all know who you are, but if you could introduce yourself for the record. And if I'm speaking out of school on the permitting stuff.
Thank
you,
Please
Mr.
note the
Chairman.
jacket, by the way.
It's
You
pretty
look
sharp.
you dressed tonight.
It's not the jacket, it's the elbow things.
That's right. Yes.
Bill knows best.
If I could suggest, Mr. Chairman, after we spoke, I did some calculations on the online permitting.
Okay.
And a little bit more on the pavilion. If you voted on those two items, if rather than set it at 50, if you could just do not to exceed 60,000, just so to take any coverage, because I think the 50 is just covering it so close.
Okay.
So
Now, are you saying the 60 would cover all the permitting and all of the costs for the
yes,
pavilion?
yes.
Okay.
It'd be close, but
Yeah,
it'll do it.
I think I had those numbers in my mind, but I did back out because
Right.
my feeling is there are a lot of users down there and a lot of people on Payson that wanted something out there. I had a $5,000 number in mind to get us over the top that needed to come from the users, not from this.
We still may need that if we have to get a crane over there, and so that's gonna tip the scale very quickly. So I just want not to exceed 60. I think it's a more comfortable number.
And if it's less, then it just wouldn't come from this.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be the
Just
exact
go back.
figure would be presented.
Okay.
And that would be from the Selectmen's mitigation fund.
Right.
The second one.
Correct.
Mhm.
And if I also could point out, one of the conditions that had to deal with the traffic and selecting the payment option, is that upon 80% occupancy, it's the applicant has to do a traffic assessment plan at that point.
That's right, yep.
I think to the tune of, I think it was like $30,000. That's separate from everything, which would be presented to the board, which would help that decision on where that impact money
Okay.
should go.
So during the project, they did a traffic study on anticipated traffic.
At 80%
occupancy. They do an actual study of the trip generations and where it goes.
Correct.
And if there's more trips or trips in the different directions, are they obligated to go back and address the changes with brick and mortar? I mean, to go out and
No, it
fix
was just they were to present a traffic assessment, but if you selected the payment option to go for road work or safety, then you'd want to use that assessment to make a decision.
Okay. And that money would be
So,
there for
yeah,
that? Okay.
you wouldn't be flying blind, so
Yeah.
to speak.
So the study's funded by the developer 80%
Correct.
through?
Yeah, they set aside $30,000 separate for that study.
An additional 30,000 before to adjust the lights, or is the adjustment of the lights, that 30,000?
That's part of the
That's
30,000.
Separate.
There was a total, there was a total mitigation, including the 300,000. They had a mitigation of 220,000, which consisted of some of these 30,000 for assessment, lights, sidewalks, buffering, fence, land acquisition, so, which wasn't part of this. It was, they were paying directly for those improvements. 220,000.
Jim, just to recap, just give me a number. How much money out of these two tranches will be left to deal with unforeseen mitigation for the neighborhood?
Okay, so if we're putting it into two categories, the first one is 150,000.
Right.
And the second one is 150 minus the 60,000
So
not to
90.
exceed.
So we
90.
240 total.
Okay, now, does one piece of that expire, or does any of it expire?
No.
No.
Okay,
If you take the payment options, the answer is no.
okay.
See, if
150
you-
of it has to be used for road improvement.
Right, there is no shelf life on it.
If you did the actual road improvements, there was a time limit on that because they were doing they want to do it during construction.
So 240 combined, broken down 150 and 90.
Yep.
So if that's in general agreement, I wanted to open up if there's anyone, anything else you wanted to add, or?
That was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
So if there's anyone from the Fisher Street or the residents that wanted to speak?
Want me to sit or stand?
Whatever you're comfortable with, they both work.
Ari Weinstein, 112 South High Street. This process, I would say, has been extremely surprising and disappointing from the neighbor's perspective. Every single step of the way, every single board in this town has ignored our concerns, has dismissed our worries. Also, we get over the 10%. I would say two things about the money that's available. I would say the money that's available for the traffic, leave that with the developer, have them deal with Mass DOT in planning out a traffic design there, and have them deal with that rather than town take on the issue. As for the $150,000 that's at the selectmen's discretion, I would say that Mr. Keegan has agreed to meet with council for the neighborhood, and that no decisions would be made for what to do with that money until after such a meeting had occurred. I would also suggest to the board that the position of the neighbors is that any use of any of that $150,000 for anything other than direct mitigation would be a violation of the permit, and would be an actionable decision.
Can you repeat that? I didn't quite understand.
That $150,000.
The first one or the second one?
The second one,
Okay.
the second one that's at the selectmen's discretion, that if that were to be used for anything other than the direct mitigation, that council would likely be getting involved in that.
Okay, thank you.
I would also ask that, with regard to the traffic concern, with regard to the process for developing this, that the traffic be resolved, that the sewer connection be resolved before any trees start getting taken out. Who knows what might happen in the interim, and if you pull out all the trees and something stops or slows this development, and there's just a big, huge opening there that looks like Sharon Commons, I think you're going to find the neighborhood even more angry than people already are.
Yeah, and I understand the concern, but that's a process, and that's what bonds are for, and that's what the building permit process is for. But I understand the concern.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to address the comment that I'm meeting with council. Council asked to meet with me, and has since asked to, I think, want to meet with you as well as the chairman as well. So I think he's going to reach out to you, but it was not my understanding that it was going to be just to say that the $150,000 was strictly dedicated for that purpose.
Yeah, I just,
It was-
I
it
haven't
was-
heard from any.
Yeah, the indication I had was there was to hear some of the concerns of the neighbors, but.
Has
not
this
that was-
meeting been arranged?
No, it has not been arranged as of yet. I just received the request actually while I was away, and said that I would be back today, and then council's actually away right now, and he said he would reach out to me when he got back.
So just to clear, I mean, there's so many councils. There's the Developers Council, there's
This is
the
the
Neighbors Council.
This is the Neighbors Council. This is the
Oh,
neighbor-
so the Neighbors Council's reaching out to us?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
all
right.
I wasn't aware of that.
Right.
Okay.
They just reached out to me he reached out to me, I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week.
Okay, when you say we're at a disadvantage, because when you say the neighbors, I don't know if it's 1 or 50 or the plaintiffs or what the settlement is, so we're kind of in dark area there. I don't know what the
I don't know
agreements
who this particular council represents or how many people are involved in that. I know that Mr. Weinstein is involved because I know he was one of the lead plaintiffs in the case.
Okay, now, this has been going on this is the second meeting, and to find out tonight, not your issue, that we can't make a decision because there's a council that's not happy with it. We'll deal with that if it comes, but
Right.
It's not our council that's saying that.
That's right.
Anyone else from the audience? Seeing nobody. More discussion, or do we want to make a motion?
My discussion is, I haven't changed my position on this since we talked about it the last time, and I think that we really don't know what the impact of this development is gonna have on that community. And, $150,000 in the grand scheme of things really isn't a lot of money. And to try to predict that it's only gonna be, $90,000, I think, my crystal ball's shut off, and I can't see it, but if there's, berming, if there's landscaping, if there's trees, this is soundproofing, honestly, $150,000 in the end of the day is not a real lot of money. So my position is I think we leave it in a fund as a contingency to see what the impacts are, and then begin to work off that fund and mitigate the problems if they arise. And I think if for some reason no problems arise, then we can begin to earmark them for other purposes in town. But I think it's important to look after the interests of the neighborhood, because I really believe they're going to be impacted considerably.
I actually have to agree with you. I mean, you started out saying that you reached out to every other board, every other group, and nobody's gonna have any real impact on this. The only impact will be this neighborhood, so I think that the traffic, 150,000, I agree with you. Let's just take the money, sit on it, see what it looks like. The other 150,000, I think, needs to stay there, because we don't know what's gonna happen. And they will be the only ones really that ultimately get affected, so that's kind of the way I'm leaning.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I think the whole 300,000 should go into escrow until we can determine, what the total impact is into the neighborhood. And then, once that's determined, if it's 2 left-hand lanes, we'll have the money to fund that. I'll tell you right now, you're not gonna do 2 left-hand lanes for $150,000. The engineering and everything else that has to go into it, it's not gonna happen. So I would recommend taking the 300,000, put it in escrow account, and let's wait. So.
Okay, Ginny?
Well, of the 150,000 for the Selectmen's Mitigation Fund, it had been in the minutes that, from what I understand, going through the ZBA minutes, that 150,000 is actually at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. Caspara had brought up 2 items to be requesting those funds to be used for. One of them being the permitting, the money to start the permitting, and the second one was to help develop or finish off the pavilion in honor of Sharon Wasson, who did work very hard as the town planner on this project. So my question is, if the total 300,000 is put in escrow, where would the funds for your permitting program and for the pavilion come from? Do we have a source of money for that? Because they're both timely, and it's not,
Right now, we put some capital money aside for the permitting process, but not the entire amount. It'd be phased for phase 2, I believe.
Bill, do you have they given you a construction schedule, or when they anticipated to be at 80% complete?
The project should take about 14 months. They're going to start clearing first, second week in April. They will start land clearing. They are applying for a permit now. We've already done the reviews, so they're holding off a little bit too. Ginny, to answer your question, in the CIP, I put in for $30,000. That was for the rest of the departments. That was like a phase 2 to bring the Selectmen's office, Town Clerk's office, Board of Health, and other permitting and licensing departments into the program. Phase 1 was from this mitigation money to get the building department started and the fire department. So it would start the training, start the data transfer. It would be the seed money, and then we'd go into phase 2, and hopefully we'd be totally on online permitting for the opening of new town hall. This is not about brick and wall; it's about a service too. So that was the plan to do that. The Sharon Wasson, there's approximately, I believe, 15,000's been raised already through private sources. I applied for a Partners in Patriotism grant, and I got $15,000. I don't quite know how to ask you to accept that donation right now. I'm trying to work on that one. And then, so that would be 30, and then another 30 would be 60. And I'm looking at somewhere between 55 and 60 to get this pavilion up. There's a 5-week design and manufacturing process. So, plan was once this money was available, we could start that, because this won't happen until probably the fall. I was hoping for the summer, but I don't want the project to die. I want to keep it going. It's important to me personally.
I think it's important to all of us.
I know.
So, in the different 40Bs that go around, and believe me, I understand, I know people in that neighborhood. It was aggravating as hell to watch it go down the way it did. And you can point the finger at the town not doing anything, but I'm sorry, but it's a state law, and the developer did exactly what the state allowed.
Sure.
Could we have been a little bit more aggressive? Maybe. But it is what it is right now. Once that's built, these residents, the people living there, will be part of the community. They will be using the roads. They'll be using the athletic facilities. So that's why I was thinking that the majority of the money went to the neighborhood, because they're the most impacted. There's different mitigation you can do. I looked at, maybe giving people on the cul-de-sac $2,000 or $3,000 each to put the trees on their own land, something like that. There's things that we can do. But at the end of the day, it's not an island that these people are going to be living in there and then taking a helicopter someplace. They're going to drive on the roads. They're going to go to the schools. So it was a small percentage that could go to the community-based projects that would benefit the whole town plus them.
And that, I agree with that. However, let's not leave the neighborhood short. If for some reason the issues that might happen don't materialize, then those monies are freed up for other programs. But I think let's just see where this all goes, because if we use the money now and for some reason something comes up that's unforeseen and it requires money, it's going to leave the neighborhood short. So I think we take it in phases, and he's going to say this is going to be 80% built or in 14 months, and occupancy is going to occur while they're building.
It'll occur by building.
Yeah. So, in say maybe 18 months to 2 years, we'll probably know the full impact.
Yeah, and again, I didn't go to the meetings, but the discussion I had was the traffic signal, all the stuff that was done. cut muster to get this thing approved and built. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't, I don't know. But everyone can't be right and everyone can't be wrong on this. If you ask some people, 100% of it was to stay here. If you ask other people that went to the meetings, that was not the case. So this is a way of saying, again, it's a little bit of a compromise, not heavy with the town side. It serves a purpose. It's going to be a refined project as a date, start, done, on two projects that have a big bang for the buck. And the neighbors get the majority of the money. So it was my way of trying to figure out, and I don't think anyone's lying on it,
I'm seeing
but
it
they
the same
can't
way,
have
but just on
totally
a different schedule.
Yep.
And I'm saying that if for some reason the mitigation isn't required, or the monies aren't required for some sort of road design or sidewalks, the monies will naturally flow back to projects within town.
So, Chairman, I just for the board's edification, I went back and I looked at the communication that council, the neighbors' council had provided to me, and the request was to look at the $150,000 mitigation fund, but to use a portion of that funds for some mitigation. Didn't say the whole thing. Said for a portion of it. And so that discussion was to take place. He was going to sit down with myself and you. And
So that's the problem that we have.
Yeah.
We're just hearing
Yeah.
a resident say, if it's not all there, then there's going to be
I've got it right here in writing.
litigation. So it gets to a point where, again, everyone can't be right and wrong.
Right.
If a council is saying one thing, a
Right.
resident's saying another, the zoning boards are saying another. We've
Right.
heard it all. I think, we can beat this thing to death, but I thought what I proposed was
But I
a
think the
fair thing.
proposal for a compromise is fair, and still the majority goes we'd go to an escrow or whatever. But it would also serve the town now on some other issues that need to be closed, get started.
So both of those items, the permitting and the pavilion, I know the pavilion, you've got the designs, it's ready to go.
Yep.
On the permitting, you've reached out to vendors and consultants, and there's a schedule.
We're just
and
ready to go once the money's in place to start the training and do it. My hope was to have it ready for the next July 1, when the other monies would become available to
Mhm.
just piggyback onto
On
it.
top of it, okay. All right, again, I think what was on the table is a good compromise. It sounds like everyone's in agreement, but it's just a schedule.
It's a timing
Yep,
issue.
timing.
I think.
Well, are you, okay, you got three, John, Chris, and Dave. You want the 300,000 put aside
I think it
in
needs
escrow.
to be until we figure out.
Jim, you're willing to take
Put it all aside except for those two items.
two items,
That
okay.
are on the table.
How about, could we have a compromise where, because I know the pavilion for Sharon is very important to Bill. It's very important to a lot of people. And I know the neighborhood may at times not realize it, but Sharon was actually a very good advocate for you. She was, ma'am, she was. And so my compromise would be maybe just carve out what you would want for the pavilion to get, so we can get that started. And then what would that be? How much is that? 15?
No, that would be 30.
30.
Not to exceed 30, because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I know you're, that you're ready to go with the pavilion. You wanted that to be done for the fall. We don't want, and the thing is, the more you delay, the memories fade. It would be nice to honor Sharon now, within a year of her passing. I mean, she did so much for this town. She brought in so many grants, but the master plan, I mean, really, that's Sharon. So, that's my compromise.
I see you getting emotional, and it's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. It's the sentiment, and it's the right thing to do, but it's also an amenity that's going to get a lot of use from the neighbors, the community, the visitors. I mean, the playgrounds that are down there and the fields, it fits like a glove in there, so.
Do we have a mechanism where if we did take a portion of that mitigation money and use it for the online permitting and Sharon's Pavilion, and we do come back and we do find ourselves short in resolving the mitigation up on Fish Street, do we have a mechanism where we can fund the difference?
Well, the town can always do that as part of, you can identify that as a priority project for road improvements. We would just have to reprioritize our pavement management program.
That would be an option.
You can always do that.
Say that again?
So, we do the plan that you just laid out. We take the money, we put it in escrow. Come, 80% occupied, we realize we gotta do 2 left turns, it's gonna cost, $300,000. We've already taken money out. We're
Town put it
obligated.
back in.
Town put it back in through the road work.
That's interesting.
As long as we have the mechanism to do that. So the neighbors are made whole. We get the funding for the timing issue to go forward with that, under the auspice that they will get the 300,000 if needed to make them whole.
But that's all based on the predication that you're going to get a permit from the DOT.
Well, that's, no matter what we do, it's all predicated.
It's all predicated on that.
Well, I also don't want to lose,
Slim to none, we were told by the DOT.
I also don't want to lose fact that this went through a process and the right turn lane is what's on the board. It's not left turn.
That's
I don't know
correct.
what the cost is going to be. If for whatever reason, the 2 lefts didn't make it into it, and I don't know if it was missed or it was, it's $1 million project. I don't want to take this 150 and say we can do a 2 left turn lanes, because I don't think it's, the money that we're taking out is not going to put it over the top to get that done, because I don't think it's even close to that. So.
But I think with the timing, as long as we have the mechanism to do that, I'd be for that.
So either the CIP or under the operating budget to put that money back in, are we on the same page 6 months after?
Well, we put
the
so
last
much,
deal?
we put so much money into, we get so much money from Chapter 90 each year, we get so
Yeah.
much money from, from just
Meals tax.
tax.
Okay.
You can always reprioritize.
Why didn't we reprioritize the CIP? Why didn't we put the whole money in for the online permitting if it's that important? And why not put Sharon's Pavilion in there if it's that important? I mean,
Well, because there were considerations before, during the process of the mitigation that was discussed earlier as possibilities.
again, like I just circled
Yeah.
the concession stand. I mean, there's $125,000 that the taxpayers are gonna pay for. We could take that money and put it towards these 2 things. I mean, I feel on that $125,000.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, that's right.
There's also 10 other items that's below this list that didn't make it to the cut, too.
Right.
Ginny, I think your comment about how memories fade, I think you're absolutely right. And I actually, can bend to your compromise.
Do we have a mechanism,
Provided.
like David said?
Provided, David's point, provided that we don't forget about this neighborhood, and that if the road work in the intersection needs to be addressed, we take it out of, public funds and highway funds.
Well, the question that's going to come back is, to what extent is that going to be a cost? I mean, if it's if it's $700,000, I mean, how much of a commitment do you want to make there?
Well, it would have to be a priority, but that's what I'm saying, is that
Right.
we really don't know what the impact is going to
don't?
be. And I don't think the neighborhood knows, and I think the
Right.
neighborhood rightfully is worried about that.
Right.
So, it's easy to divert monies because they're available, but the thing is that you just can't, if this was being built in our neighborhoods, we'd feel a lot differently, because we'd be impacted. So we have to look out for their interests. So I can compromise on the Sharon Wasson Pavilion. I think that's a good project to undertake, and I think I'll leave it there.
discussion? I wish I had gone to the meetings, to be honest with you, because I don't know what the pushback was on the left and right. But I do think it's apples and oranges. I don't think we're gonna get the money for a right turn lane, because basically it's 100 feet of shoulder work, and you scoot by. A left turn lane is reconfiguring the entire intersection. So I think, you know, I think the mitigation that would be done is not 2 left turns. It's screening and landscaping and maybe drainage or something like that. If it's a bigger thing of changing that intersection, the ship has sailed on this project. The pavilion money and the online permitting is not even gonna come close to that.
Right.
So
I
and again, I
think
wasn't
that's
at the
accurate.
meetings, but I'm hoping that level of discussion was had by the traffic consultants, and the 2 left lanes wasn't needed, so. All right, I think everyone said their piece. Is there a motion? One more discussion?
Which variety?
Which,
The garden variety right now.
Were you saying that my original plan with a condition that if a certain time at, say, let's just put 6 months after the last permit is issued and they're living in it, then if the mitigation is more, then the 2 items would be put back in from
Right.
some type of a
Right,
thing, not
so,
one, but
so
both?
the 300 would guarantee to be made whole.
Is that possible, Bill, from a condition that we could make?
We could, well.
I don't want to say
You
condition.
can
in-
prioritize that. I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be up to others to approve that. I mean, it'll probably go capital, but I can certainly, you know, I serve in the capital committee, so I mean, I can carry that message back. And given the wishes of the board and their intent on trying to make the community whole in that regard, then that's a pretty compelling argument.
And at this point, it's not going to make everybody happy, but I think it's going to be as close as we can get to it.
Tell you what, I'll take a crack at a motion. I move that we accept both mitigation funds of $150,000, using $30,000 of the second fund for the Sharon Wasson Pavilion. Is that the right number, Bill?
For the pavilion, yes.
Okay.
So.
And not including the townwide.
So not including the online permitting?
No,
Take it off the table?
I firmly believe that should have gone through the CIP process. But if it didn't raise to the level of priority, it has to compete.
It's just the way the mitigation funds, how it evolved through hearings.
Right.
Because originally it was broken
It
down
was discussed
into
earlier.
specific categories. Online permitting, Sharon Wasson Pavilion, lights, which was the way it was done for the lodge at Foxborough.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bill, so the meeting
yeah.
minutes is somewhat silent on it, but you went to this is what was discussed?
Oh, yeah. So we had these, and then it was decided it was better because it had worked in the past if it was all lumped together at the discretion of the selectmen.
And I advocated for that, I will tell you that, to put it in a lump.
So what I just heard was this $150,000 mitigation money was talked about at these meetings, part of it to go to Sharon Wasson Pavilion?
No, well, originally, there was a discussion of whether or not we should earmark some of the money for specific projects, such as the Wasson Fund or the permitting.
But to be fair, Bill, tonight's the first time I've heard that.
Me too.
Okay.
So,
Well, no.
So to say this is part of the discussion all along,
But
I
it
must have
wasn't,
missed something.
that's
No.
not how the
It
permit
was at
was
the
No,
written.
ZBA.
but that's not, but it didn't come out that way in the end. What happened was that the discussion then went to, let's not earmark it for anything, and just leave it as to discretion of the board, and the board can actually decide or appoint a subcommittee to
Yeah, and
make
that's
that
where we are
decision.
now, right.
Right.
And that's how it came out.
But then it got muddied, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why I was confused, because both sides can't be perfectly
No.
right without lying, and I don't think anyone is, but I'm thinking people left those meetings with different understandings. And talking to the ZBA, black and white, it was not all for the neighborhood. Talking to the neighbors, black and white for the people that went to the meetings. And I couldn't find anyone that went to all the meetings.
Well, I did.
Excuse me?
Build it.
Yeah.
I did.
But I'm saying from the neighbors, from the.
I was at every meeting.
You know,
There was
so
never
that's why
it was
the
clearly
discrepancy.
delineated, 150 direct effect for the abutters, 150 at the discretion of the selectmen, for the town.
As a whole.
As a whole. The minutes reflect that. Yeah. Discussion reflects that. The permit reflects that. Depends how cloudy you want to look at it. You know, it's clear. It was clear to me.
Okay, so the motion on the table is the 150 and then the 150 minus the 30 for the pavilion. Do you want to amend that, or you can keep that?
No, I'll keep that.
Keep that. There's a second on that motion? Going once, first call?
Okay. All right.
It was really your suggestion.
All right, so
Before we get
all
into
right,
discussion,
okay.
I need to have a second on the motion
Okay.
or it dies.
Can I
Second
just
call.
ask a question?
No, you
If-
can't. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I can figure out your strategy. If this thing doesn't die, is your taking out the 90,000 with your idea of how to pay it back?
Yeah, my,
No, 90,
it's
60.
60.
60.
So, it would-
60
Right.
with the pavilion money and the,
right, so,
okay. So
Basically-
that is the motion that you would propose?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so motion made, second call. Third call for seconded. Seeing none, motion fails. Back to, do I hear a motion?
I'll try this. I make a motion that we accept the 150,000 in, well, the two mitigation funds worth 150,000. 60,000, well, 30,000 be earmarked for the online permitting, 30,000 being earmarked for the Wasson Pavilion, with the understanding that 6 months after full occupancy, if there's mitigation required for traffic or other mitigation that's required in the neighborhood, the town will be responsible for the 60,000. So the mitigation funds will be guaranteed at 300,000. Convoluted way of saying it.
If it is determined that additional roadway improvements are required.
Right.
No, mitigation. It doesn't necessarily have to be roadways.
It's mitigation, I mean, it's,
Okay.
Could be
You're leaving it as general
landscaping, yeah,
mitigation.
general
it should be mitigation.
So is there a
that exceed
mechanism,
the
is there a legal
240,000.
mechanism to do that? Without going through a budgeting process, without going through.
You can't, this board.
Without going through AdCom? or-
Yeah, you'd have to go through the process
Yeah.
to earmark. I mean, we can recommend that. We can recommend it. You can't guarantee it. No, none of us can. But we can recommend it.
Okay. So, can you, Deb, can you repeat that?
Motion by David Feldman, they accept $150,000 mitigation funds worth $150,000, $30,000 online permitting, $30,000 for the Sharon Wasson Pavilion, with the understanding 6 months after full occupancy, if there is mitigation required, or for traffic or other mitigation required in the neighborhood, the mitigation fund will be guaranteed at $300,000.
Okay. So, everyone clear on that motion?
Well, guaranteed and recommended are totally different things. We don't have a way to guarantee it.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
I'm being entirely truthful in telling you that. You cannot guarantee. You can say we will support up to $300,000.
Okay. Is it a clerical question?
It actually is a clerical question, because if you're guaranteeing that it's at $300,000, remember that $150,000 is earmarked specifically for roadway stuff,
Mhm.
and there is guaranteed for $150,000 for the
General mitigation.
So if you put it, you're mixing pots at that point. You're in your guarantee.
Yeah, that's why I thought originally we were going to have two separate ones.
I almost think we need two separate motions, because it's two separate pots of money.
All right, let's back. So motion was made.
Let's try it one more
Anyone
time.
seconding it? Going once, going twice, 3 times, motion fails. Can we have another try at a motion? And may I suggest, I don't remember the number of it, but the first mitigation number, which was 150, or payment option, or the right turn lane of 100 feet.
I make a motion, we accept the payment option for $150,000 for traffic improvements.
And I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0 for the first mitigation.
Thank you, Barrett.
Motion
Sometimes
for
the-
the
the-
second
clear as
item of
muddy.
mitigation.
I make a motion that we accept $150,000 in townwide mitigation, with $30,000 going to the online permitting, $30,000 going to the Wasson Pavilion, with a recommendation that $60,000 will be made a priority if 6 months after permitting,
Occupancy.
6 months after occupancy, further mitigation is required to make that $150,000 towards that.
Hold. Hold.
Hold.
Hold. W-H-O.
I don't mean to sound pinheaded here, but, but I'm going to be pinheaded for a second,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
because when you say what's going to be the determining factor whether that's needed or not, it could be anything.
Well, what I'm thinking is, so the motion made, seconded, further discussion, so it's been seconded under further discussion. A couple things are at play. We've got a 80% permitting, 80% occupancy threshold where the
Yep.
traffic study has to come in, so there could be a condition that we get that report and look at it.
Yep.
And then the second part is who's gonna determine what mitigation is. I
Right.
wanna have the neighborhood involved in it, where they're living there, they get the opportunity to come to this meeting with input from the DPW and maybe the planning board, and perhaps even the Conservation Commission, because they're concerned about the wetlands and drainage, that there's a meeting to determine the steps towards mitigation. Nobody at this table or the building department knows what it may be nothing, or it may be worse. So I think on the discussion, if there's a condition that the following process includes review of the 80% traffic study and a follow-up meeting with the neighbors and town staff towards making a suggestion towards the mitigation, I think that's the best we can do. I'm not even gonna ask you to repeat that then.
I would have thought that just would have happened naturally, that the neighborhood would have been involved in identifying what areas need to be mitigated. Not sure that has to be spelled out.
I don't think it's a big study. I think it's Mrs. Jones coming down and just saying, this is just ridiculous and this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, we would have to determine if that was reasonable or not, and bring the planning committee.
I feel like I've run a marathon, I'm out of wind, but
Yeah.
let me put my 2 cents worth in. I think statutorily, and no disrespect to this board by any means, I don't think you can put conditions on, I don't think Board of Selectmen can put conditions on a comprehensive permit, which is what you're doing with these
Oh,
conditions.
no, I don't think we're making, conditioning the developer to do stuff.
Well, I
This is-
just want to make it clear
Yeah,
that
no,
it's
this
two
is
separate,
This is our own internal, the condition on spending the money.
Yeah, they're not conditioning the
Yeah.
development.
that's within your purview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That boat has, that ship sailed, that should have been in the write-up of the zoning board.
Mhm.
Yes, Para?
Sorry, another small clarification, which is that you're gonna put the $90,000 into an escrow account, and then you're saying that you're gonna give $60,000 to make the $150,000 whole.
Yeah.
Well, even if interest rates are piddling, that means that if you add $60,000 to it, it's going to be more than what's going to make it whole, so.
Because you're adding interest.
Because you're adding interest, exactly. So this-
60,000
I think
over
interest
a
at this
year.
point is
Yeah.
de minimis, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, you're not going to make it that much
Yeah.
on it. We're not going to get rich
No,
on
I'm
that.
not getting any.
It's just because you said, because the language was make whole, so.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
You all know what
Thanks.
you're doing.
So, boy, this is a quagmire a little bit. So the motion was made, seconded, that's the discussion, if you want to amend it, or we can vote on it. or take other suggestions.
Punt.
You want to read it again?
You know, I don't disagree with the spirit of the motion. I just disagree with the, the mechanism to say, how can we make, how can we provide enough mitigation funds for unknown, unforeseen problems that might arise? And, my knowledge of municipal finance, and I just was hoping we don't get trapped where we find that we don't have a mechanism and it's a recommendation, and as you said, time, you forget what was important at the time, and it may not rise to the on the priority list for the highway department, and we're back here 4 or 5 years from now, and the neighborhood has been shortchanged. I really feel for this neighborhood. I live on the other side of the highway, and I know what a major project can do, because they're almost an island over there, and it really is going to impact the neighborhood. But that's why my original proposal was to say, if we could wait a bit. I know, Bill, you've got your priorities, and
But
so
the reality of it, John, is there's never going to be enough mitigation money for a sub.
you're
It could
probably
be
right.
$500,000.
You're probably right.
And that's the reality. So where do you,
But this is what we have.
Where do you say, hey, it's in my rearview mirror?
I don't think I can do that. This is what we have. I really feel for that neighborhood.
So my suggestion would be that if in fact at the end of the 6-month period following the 80% occupancy, the board meets with the neighborhood, hears from them, that if it does need more mitigation, the limit of your obligation is up to $60,000 more. So I think we should all be clear about that, because at that point, then you're committing more resources beyond that. And I don't think that's what your intent is.
No, we don't have the authority or the ability or the knowledge of all those zoning board meetings.
Right.
Or, there's lawsuits and it just goes back and back, so keeping all that stuff and that mitigation separate, I think the best we can do is
I think
go
you
into
can,
the 300,000.
all you can do is make a commitment that you'll make the request, you'll recommend, you'll support the additional $60,000, up to $60,000 needed to make the
Okay.
fund whole.
And that's all logged in the meeting minutes. So the motion was made, seconded, and any further discussion? And a call a vote, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 3-2. Thank you, guys.
Tough debate.
It's, yeah, and again, it's,
Good, so, yeah, good discussion.
thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
When everybody goes away unhappy, it's a good deal.
Never heard that one.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Okay, next item, annual town meeting warrant articles. So we have the list. I got a text from you that you were going to talk about the billboards. You want to, all right, so you want to just give an overview of any changes from?
There are no changes to my knowledge at this point in time. I mean, the changes are all, everything that you have so far has been, the order has not changed. None of those, there's been no further changes beyond that. The capital, the AdCom met on capital the other night and heard everything. So my understanding, based upon what I heard today, is that the AdCom was going to actually try and take a vote tomorrow night on the status of the capital items.
Okay.
Were we
So,
going to eliminate the FY16 operating budget adjustments? Was that?
For the capital,
Oh, okay, so that,
Yeah,
okay,
again, that was eliminated.
okay.
Can I ask a question? Why is there 3 different articles for the liquor licenses?
That's my same question, too.
The nodes,
Yeah,
maybe?
because they're 3 separate nodes. That was,
We did that, it really was in line with the approach that we talked about back when Sharon was working on the master plan, that we would look at each of these nodes individually so that you could bring a vision forward, basically, that people could use as a reference point to approve those licenses, taking into account the sensitivity that I know exists with advisory committee on the topic of liquor licenses and, you know, obviously the board also. We thought that bringing it forward in that way really allowed each proposal to be studied independently so that if they were all put together as one, you know, you could lose the opportunity to have any of them based on, you know, if there's a particular area that was not considered of interest for development or, you know, for adding additional liquor licenses to. So we tried to isolate, we did isolate each node individually and talk specifically about what the vision was for each of those so that they could be judged independently.
I thought it was broken out so you could figure out what you needed and then coming back as a whole. I thought we were going back to town meeting in May with one warrant article for X amount. I don't like this at all, because what if somebody doesn't want anything in one section of town? There goes the whole economic development of the town as a whole out the window.
No, rewind. If you group them all together and somebody has an objection and can convince
That's what'll
town
happen.
meeting to object, you lose everything. This way here,
Yeah, I don't know. I was under the assumption, I thought that this was coming as one
No, it
package.
was
No, we'd always talked
never,
about
even
it.
before the Economic Development Committee was formed. They were always, that's the way that, when Sharon and I were working on it, that was what we were doing. We broke out into the nodes. We actually had 4 nodes at the time, the Foxborough, Forbes Crossing.
Well,
was.
like, yeah.
That was always, you know, and that was always, that went along with the master plan. And what the idea is that you make, you know, you can go before town meeting and explain it. You can go before AdCom, then you can go before town meeting. You can explain everything, and everyone will feel comfortable with their votes. That was-
And I think this gives more voice to the people, because if I don't like this area, then chances of fighting the whole thing is diminished. So that
I
can
just thought
focus
we were
on it.
like talking to totally economic development throughout the entire town, and this kind of segregates it, I think.
Yeah, I think we're looking, you know, at least for me, I was looking big picture. I wasn't looking at each individual node, because it's collective for economic development in the town. So, you know, you're concerned about saturation. Well, what if you just keep putting it in one area? Well, you're gonna reach that saturation point. But I understand, you know, separating it. I don't know if I agree with it yet, but.
Did the Economic Development Committee make the recommendation to do this?
Yeah.
The whole committee supports this?
Consensus, pretty much?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exception.
Not all of them.
One of them doesn't agree with that.
Missed
That's
that
fine.
meeting. I didn't get that kick under the table.
Can't reach you. Forgetting on that.
I think you can actually make good arguments for all 3 nodes anyways. I mean, I think there's very compelling arguments on all three sides.
I think altogether it would pass on its own merit. I don't know.
you gotta get the town meeting more. You'd be surprised.
I've been to most of them.
Yeah. Again, I think it's an approach, a concept that had been developed in the master plan process, and I understand what you're saying, David, though, because really, the Economic Development Committee, we're looking at development throughout the town, and we recognize the value of liquor licenses as one piece of that throughout each of these development nodes. So the message is the same. It's just giving people the opportunity to hear the specifics about each one and vote on the specifics of each one.
Okay.
We'll have to make a compelling argument.
I
Are you
think
the
there's a
ZBA?
lot to be supportive on all 3 of them, to be honest with you. There's a lot to be said about all 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so Article 31, amend code of Town of Foxborough signs, Billboard Advisory Committee, Zoning Board of Appeals. So you wanted to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just so, to give you a little background, the Billboard Advisory Committee, Bill Caspera, Barney Overt from the ZBA, Randy Scollins, and, who am I missing? Oh, from the
Well, Bill Greeter was on.
Bill Greeter was on it and has been replaced by Kevin Weinfeld. And Paige Duncan.
Sharon was on it. And she
Sharon was on it, so I believe we've put Paige on the list for appointments for this coming spring. So Sharon had created a survey for billboards that was sent around to all the or a certain percentage of town residents, and the results of that survey were analyzed by our group, and it asked questions about digital signs, regular billboards, what were the preferences that residents had. So we spent a lot of time reviewing the results on that and decided that what we wanted to do was focus on a concern that was raised as part of the survey, that there can be too many billboard signs on Route 1. So we looked at all different possibilities. When signs are permitted to be 500 feet apart, you could have, what was the number, 28 signs?
17.
17?
Yeah, we had
17.
17.
So right now, we are at 10 static signs. So what we wanted to do was make a language proposal that to get increases to that would require some additional work on the part of the person making the request, and I'm going to turn that over to Bill for the actual zoning language to discuss with you.
What the zoning board realized was that a billboard requires a special sign permit. And the criteria for a billboard is that it can't exceed 675 square feet, and it can't be less than 500 feet from another static billboard sign. There was no other criteria.
On the same side of the road or opposite sides?
It's 500 feet, so.
So a circle around it, okay.
Yeah, it's a radius.
Yeah, radius,
It's a radius. So the zoning board realized they didn't have any criteria for denial if you met that, what was permitted by the bylaw. Since we adopted the recodified sign bylaw about 2 years ago, they've issued 4 special sign permits for billboards.
Static.
Static. We don't allow electronic.
Okay.
So the language that's in here, and I'll just explain, it's twofold. The first one was any benefit that the town of Foxborough, residents of Foxborough, and the general public may realize from the proposed sign. What that will do will allow an agreement to be made between the applicant and the town for possible revenue sharing.
A financial benefit?
A financial benefit. It'll open up that door. The board can't require it, but there can be an agreement for revenue sharing. And the final sentence is, with respect to the special sign permit for a billboard, whether there is a compelling need for the billboard. That language was in the old bylaw and allowed the zoning board to deny billboards. What's your compelling need? You want to make money? No. Where does it go beyond your pocket? That language was taken out. I want to put that back in now. So what is the compelling need? Is it just not for advertisement? Are you putting up alerts, Amber Alerts? You helping with the traffic on Route 1? Because these can only go on Route 1. Or is it compelling need that you're also working in conjunction with the town of Foxborough to meet some financial benefit to the town? So it gives them the ability to, if they approve it, to put criteria on or deny it. Otherwise, we realize we could be looking at a total of 17, and that's
It was clear that...
32, because you got one on each side, so.
And that was a clear concern in the survey, was the total potential number that could be on Route 1.
And this was just missed at the ZBA, not this, but during the first round when this was gone 2 years ago. No one thought of this.
Because we use the Outdoor Advertising Board's criteria of 500 feet.
So you want to amend it to say that the 500 feet's fine as long as...
Oh, 500 feet is still in there, but now they can deny it, or they can create an agreement for revenue sharing, yes. That's pretty much it.
So if they approved a billboard because, you know, the, I don't know, koala bears of America, you know, preserve koala bears want to have a billboard to preserve koala bears, and that's their goal. And so the ZBA says, oh, okay, that's a great cause, koala bears of America, that's a great cause. So we'll allow you to have that billboard. And then if they change their mind and say, gee, I want to advertise Chevys.
But the billboard isn't it's for general advertisement, but it's not for a specific general advertisement. So when a person comes in front of the board, it's for the actual structure.
Yeah.
But not what's on it. It'll be static, but it may change month to month.
Right, but.
Right. So we
so
can't.
how can they deny it for a critical need, a
compelling need?
Compelling need.
Well, you know, how do you, the board always kind of bantered back and forth, what is compelling need? You know, the board always said, well, I can't define it, but I'll know it when I see it, kind of approach. But no applicant's been able to address that either, other than it's for profit.
Right.
Right,
I mean, that's
so-
what a billboard.
Right, but that wasn't, when that was in there before, it was used for denial, and permits were denied. Then it was taken back out, so there was no leverage there.
You're advocating it goes back in.
Go there.
Yeah.
I mean...
So ZBA
boy.
has control.
Okay,
So the
but
zoning board-
could you be accused of being capricious or arbitrary if you're, you know...
Blackmailing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could always be, you know, but at least also, now you have what is the benefit to the town of Foxborough
And that's what
its
financial
residents.
aspect
So
is.
it's both put
Okay,
together.
I see how you're getting around to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the two.
I mean, there could be a spot that is perhaps, you know, nothing even near it, and, you know, that could be considered beneficial in and of its own right by ZBA? I don't know.
I mean, they're concerned that they could have an
500,
influx of
500,
them.
500.
Oh, I know, it could look
Right.
ridiculous up there.
So they're concerned.
All right, so where's the language? Is it still being drafted, or is
No,
it? It's in the.
It's in the, you have the article?
Yeah, so the language is to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 213, sign Section 213-3C, subsection 2 of the Code of Foxborough by deleting subsection I in its entirety, replacing it with any benefit that the town of Foxborough, residents of the town of Foxborough, and the general public may realize for the proposed sign, and insert in new section J to read, with respect to a special sign permit for a billboard, whether there is a compelling need for the billboard. It's just a few changes, but it gives them authority to put criteria on this. It's needed. We could.
Is there another way to, just a compelling need is just,
It's
it's almost laughable. You know, I gotta get to McDonald's, you know.
I know,
need
it's
to
gone,
no direction.
there's been some serious discussion
But
at hearings on
if it's all
compelling
about,
need.
if it's all about sharing of the revenue, can
Well,
it be specific in there that you cannot do that?
No.
You can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we looked
That's-
at
that's the
case
question
law,
that's
we were
gonna-
real
that's the
careful
elephant in the
about
room.
this, and
Yeah.
this was
Identifiable
vetted
need.
by an attorney.
The other
Compelling need.
towns, I know when billboards go up, it's a profit sharing.
There are
Right off the
agreements.
bat, there are agreements.
There are agreements.
How is that addressed in the zoning?
The one that comes to mind is the town of Sharon, where there was an agreement between an applicant for either 6 or 7 billboards. It was an agreement that was done cooperatively between the two to allow 7, 3 static and 4 electronic billboards. It was a considerable amount of money, but we don't have any provisions for that to even open the door on that.
So here it's more
They
by
don't
right.
have to offer an agreement, no. So this one will say, okay, there's no need, because the residents aren't benefiting from this. We're trying to look at it for,
So the only way they, in reality, cut to the chase, the only way you can, ZBA is gonna allow a billboard up there is if they come forward with an agreement.
yeah,
Mitigate-
well, that
mitigation
would be,
agreement.
in theory, that's why they're doing this.
They could.
Yeah. And that's where the surveys came, when we got answers. They said, yeah, we'd be amenable to it if there was
Town benefit.
a town benefit.
Yeah, I remember that clearly. It was,
But you can't require them to pay a shared revenue, because the case laws now said that's considered an additional tax. So we couldn't do that approach.
Do the billboards have to be 500 feet apart, or can the town increase it to?
We can increase that. We can increase
So if you're worried about, 17 billboards, why don't you increase the amount?
We looked
Between
carefully at
and
that,
to-
and what did we come up with a range?
poor Deb.
Hands getting tired
So,
yet?
at 1,000 feet apart,
Fingers?
there was potential for 13
13
new
at
signs.
1,000.
At 1,000 feet apart.
I'm sorry, that's where you get the 26 from, yeah.
Yeah.
So 1,000, we're looking at 13. At 2,000, we're looking at 6, and at
2,500.
2,500, it's 5 new signs.
Interesting. So that approach of increasing the radius has been looked at, or?
Oh, yeah, we analyzed it and drew circles, and, but it's still, we felt that this one would answer some of the survey's concerns about revenue sharing as well, and limit the amount of billboards.
I just think the term compelling leaves us open.
Well, you can only have that issue once. Once a billboard wins that it's compelling, then every
Right.
billboard is going to follow suit because of precedence. You know, if it's selling Levi's, it's compelling, then
Yes.
no saying no to the next one.
Right.
Bill, what was the word you just
Is it
used?
identifiable instead of compelling?
An identifiable.
Need.
I would assume our council has looked at this yet, or we drafted and then get it as final, and then he looks
No,
at it?
it's been, I don't think so.
No, the
Not at
council
this
hasn't
point.
looked at it yet.
No. We can have a look and change a word, as long as it's, it gives them the ability to put criteria on it, or deny it, or identifiable would work. We talked about terms.
Yep, we can bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think identifiable is
Mhm.
a little better than compelling.
Okay,
We use compelling because that's what was in the old bylaws
Right.
and worked.
right.
We didn't want to.
Oh, well,
That was probably why it was
Identifiable is
removed.
more specific.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's more
maybe.
specific.
I don't think you can find anything compelling about a billboard ever. You know?
You're probably right.
It's a business.
Well, the only compelling is if they were gonna put it up and let nonprofits use it for free, then it's compelling.
Yeah.
My concern is if this looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a tax and it's mitigation that,
Yeah.
especially if someone's going to be watching this meeting and we're trying to covert around the obvious, it's not going to get very far with the first applicant, you know?
Well, that's why we run it through council, to make sure that
Yeah.
they may have other people have run into this issue, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did run the Sharon agreement by council, and, you know, that was the clear message that we had, that, you know, again, whatever, any type of revenue sharing would have to be related to an agreement and not in any way linked to
Yeah.
Requirement.
a requirement, right?
Okay, it sounds like it needs a little more work. Let's
Okay.
keep it on the list as an item for the warrant, but.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Okay,
All right.
moving on to Mr. Keegan, the town manager update.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know that I've gone through the review of the 3 different companies that I reviewed for electric aggregation, Colonial, Good Energy, and Bay State / Peregrine Group. I settled on the Bay State Consulting, Bay State Peregrine Group as the one that I'm suggesting that we enter into agreement with, because we already have an agreement. We already have a relationship with Bay State. Even though I know Colonial came and made a presentation, Bay State is actually working with the town now and doing its own electric aggregation for all of our buildings and facilities. And actually, I was very much impressed by what they've done with programs. And I've actually went to a meeting last week and saw a presentation from them, and they answered all my questions and actually did a really nice job. I have nothing against the other 2 companies. I just think since we already have an established relationship, we should just continue to go with it.
Well, the thing with Colony was they had a good opt-in, opt-out
You can do that with us
Is
too.
it the same
You can
with
do
Bay
that
State?
with Bay State as well. But the one thing they clarified, which was really important, is that you don't have a person just opt in, opt out all the time. They have to do it at a time when if they do so a little bit at their own risk, because if they keep opting out, when you have the ability to opt out and opt in at any time, it actually has an effect on the rate that you get quoted by the company. So if you have it where it's limited, where a person can opt back in, but they get paid, they go in at the market rate at the time, you can get locked in, and then you can get readjusted later on when the contract is up. So it allows you the ability to do that. So that way, the person giving them the best rate is guaranteed that they'll have so many people being paid at that rate. So I thought their explanation was quite good, and the person who works for Peregrine is actually is really an expert in this area. I mean, he's an attorney who actually had a lot to do with writing a lot of legislation in that area, so I was very much impressed. So again, not to say I have nothing to say badly about any one of the other companies. I just think this is the way to go. So they would help us with the marketing piece of this. They'll even come to town meeting and help explain it to people at town meeting, and then they'll start the process of marketing it and the whole process for us. And it actually comes, and they get paid through the number of people that sign up. So we don't have any financial obligation to them.
Great.
So,
We'll
and then
go with your judgment on that.
Yeah, thank you. And then the second thing, the board has on its agenda for April 19th the interview for conservation candidates to replace one of their vacancies right now. Last time we did this, you actually interviewed all the candidates. Is it the board's pleasure to continue to do that this year, or would you rather just wait to get one recommendation from the committee to you? It's up to you.
I think when we interviewed the candidates, there was either controversy or there was a lot of people going towards it. Other groups, I think we let them vet it through their process. They make a recommendation to the board.
Right.
On the candidate that best suits their needs. So I'm okay with.
I think the last thing we interviewed was 2 candidates for the Council on Aging. And there was 2 folks equally qualified, and we had to decide between one, and we did.
But I think the Council on Agents could make a decision, right? They didn't give us their
They themselves could make a
recommendation.
decision,
Yeah.
so that was hard for them.
Number one choice.
Yeah.
So it's awkward because it's public. and if it comes down to one person or another, somebody's left out.
Hmm.
So I would rather that they narrow it down to one good candidate.
If they can come up with a recommendation.
It's easier
And
in your
their-
agenda, too, to handle
Yeah,
that.
their
if you would-
process is public, it's just not on TV, but they'll do
Right.
it during open meetings.
Right.
Come up with a recommendation and,
Yeah.
make sense?
I'm fine with that.
I'd rather
Everybody
do it that
okay?
way.
All right with that, Jenny?
Rather let the board.
All right, very good. So I just want to give them direction, so on the 19th, it will just be, it'll be an item just to approve their recommendation. Okay, thank you. And then, just a note about the police chief search, we'll be starting that process. I'll be before you either the 5th or the 19th. I'm not 100% sure about this. Mary Beth is away this week, as we know. So we're going to be talking about the process for the police chief search. We need to get going on that now. And before I start on that process, if any one board member has suggestions of the kind of person that you think is important for this job, or if you have recommendations as to what we should be looking for, now's the time to start feeding that stuff to me and let me know what you're looking for. The same thing goes generally, I'm saying this publicly and we're on TV, that if anybody in the community has suggestions about that, and we'd like to know as well, we'd be curious to know what people are thinking. I think it's really important to have that much input, as much input as possible in the initial phase. Okay. We need to keep on our radar the regional dispatch discussion, so I'll be back before you at some point. Your next two agendas look really tough. So we've got a lot of information, a lot of stuff to get before you in the next 2 weeks or so. So I'm going to try and get this in there if we can, but it's going to be tough to do that. I also just want to say, just a brief moment, express our condolences. I mean, even on a small level like Foxborough, but just the people of Brussels that endured those terrible terrorist strikes this morning. There was many people killed, a lot of people injured. It just goes to show you that it can happen at any time, and that we always have to be vigilant. But I mean, we just hope the world will come to some sensible place at some point in time where we can deal with this. But I just again just want to extend our condolences to them. I mentioned this earlier as part of the budget process, but the PEC, which is the Public Employee Committee, we'll be looking at some plan changes in the coming months in health insurance. We're working with Meyer on some some design plan changes, and as a result, we're going to be making those to them and let them chew on those for a while and see what they come back with. And I think that's all I had. Again, the town hall groundbreaking, that's going to be something I need to talk about with folks. I appreciate you going there the other day, John, to represent us.
Yeah, actually, Jim showed up for like the last 10 minutes or so. But
so I'm glad you were.
One thing did come up in a groundbreaking ceremony. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
And invite the town out to see that. And but I think we need to clarify exactly where they're going to be and on what schedule. All we got was that they're planning to actually start digging the first week of April, but it wasn't set in stone.
Yeah, and you don't really have to be. You could actually start construction, and you could have a groundbreaking at any time.
Yeah, you can do it really any time. Yeah.
You don't have to have it the day before construction starts, but some people do.
It was brought up, and I think it was the architect asked if we had plans for that, and I said, honestly, we hadn't talked about it, but it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think we really should do it.
Yeah.
It's an important celebration in many ways. So, okay.
Barrett,
That's all.
can you plan that for us, Barrett?
Yeah.
What am I planning now?
Groundbreaking.
Day to day, not a town employee yet.
And something that I haven't forgotten, I'm still working on, is the opioid addiction process, and I'm still collecting more information. I'm meeting with my team tomorrow morning to talk some more about our next event, which will be, the chief has talked to me. He actually secured a tape from the FBI, which is very informative. Wants to actually hold a showing of that at some point, so we'll get some more details from him tomorrow on that and see what we can get back on that.
I attended at the Boyden Library, there was a group that came together from the community, and
Good.
it was very eye-opening
Yeah.
for the people that are affected in this town, all ages. I'll just
All
say that,
ages.
all ages. So there was probably about 10 or 12 people that had in the middle of it right now in Foxborough.
Wow. It's very serious.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a great article just came out today in ICMA about how one city went all in to fight the opioid addiction epidemic. It was actually the city of Worcester. that actually did that. So I'll share this with, I'll send this out to everybody who's going to start looking at it. Actually, well, it was really well done. So,
And,
Okay.
just to add, in the next, I think we talked about April, but your public review. is
yeah,
gonna
that's,
get that out.
I'm going to be working on that next week. Maybe I'll probably get some of it done this week, but I'll have it to you by next week. So you can start looking at it. Okay.
Thanks. Good update.
Thank you.
We've got 12 action items.
All right, number one, Boyden Library, I make a motion, we accept the gift donation in the amount of $300 for the purchase of renewal passes to the Pawtucket Red Sox in the hall at Patriot Place from the Foxborough Lions Club.
I'll second that, and thanks the Foxborough Lions Club for your donation.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right, number two, make the motion, we approve the Acme license of James Michael Foley expiring on 3/22/2018.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the approval? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right, number three, from the Audit Committee, I make a motion, we approve the appointment of John N. Spinney Jr. to the Audit Committee expiring 7/1/2018.
And I'll second that, and thank John for volunteering.
Motion made and seconded with thanks. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Number four, Inspector of Animals, I make a motion, we approve the nomination of Sue Thibodeau as Inspector of Animals expiring on 4/30/17.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the nomination. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Number five, Boyden Library, I make a motion, we accept the gift donation in the amount of $3,420 for the purchase of renewal passes for various museums from Lakeview Pavilion Charitable Foundation.
And I'll second that, and thank the Charitable Foundation for the donation.
Okay, motion made with gratitude. Further discussion? I'm sorry, motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right, number six, Foxborough Planning Board, I make a motion, we approve the hiring of Mackenzie Leahy as an intern to support the Economic Development Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded for the approval of intern. Further discussion?
Just one question, is there a duration to this? Is this like for a set period of time?
Yeah, I think
she's
she's a summer intern type.
Just for the summer?
Yeah, I believe so, John.
Okay.
Could be a little bit longer, but.
Okay.
And under further discussion, her resume, very impressive.
She worked with us last summer. She's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she did a great job.
did.
Yeah, she's very good.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. Under further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, number seven, Friends of the Recreation Group, I make a motion, we accept the gift donation in the amount of $100 to be spent on counselors of the week from Gardens to Grow LLC.
I just have I have an update on that they actually were officially designated today from the Secretary of State's office.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Okay.
that's done.
And I'll second that, and thanks Garden to Grow for your donation.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Under further discussion, I'm going to recuse myself on this because I'm a little too close to the donation on that one, so. Further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? And I will abstain, so it's 4-0-1.
Okay, number eight, Council on Aging, I make a motion, we accept the gift donation in the amount of $35 to be spent on lockbox safety program, donation from Anonymous.
And I'll second that, and thank you, Anonymous.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Number nine, Council on Aging, I make a motion to accept the gift donation in the amount of $90 from the Friends of Foxborough Seniors.
And I'll second that, and thank you, the Friends of Foxborough Seniors, for your generous donation.
Motion's made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Number 10, Foxborough Youth Baseball and Softball Association, I make a motion, we approve the baseball opening day parade on April 16th, 2016 at 10 a.m.
And I'll second that, looking forward to it.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, motion carries 5-0.
Number 11, Council on Aging, I make a motion to accept the gift donation in the amount of $70 for lockbox donations from Anonymous.
And I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the donation? Seeing none, all those in favor?
What's a lockbox donation?
It's a box that goes on your building, so if there's something wrong with you or something, the police have a key.
Oh,
Get into it and get
You
it.
hide your key, there's a
Yeah.
key actually inside
Yeah.
the box.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Thank you.
It's a nice thing.
It makes a lot of sense.
It does, actually. It's a great program.
Yeah.
So on further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0.
Number 12, Friends of Foxborough Recreation, I make a motion we accept the gift donation in the amount of $150 from Unique Sales and Services.
And I'll second that and thank Unique Sales and Services for your generous donation.
Motion made and seconded. Under further discussion, I just wanted to clarify this because there was an article in the paper yesterday, and I wasn't sure if it was one-sided. This is the, this would have been a, how to say it? This was the candy bar bingo issue that came up, and there was somebody out of town that had complained that the candy bar bingo individuals or the family paid $5, and in winnings you get a candy bar back. So the letter that went to the Gaming Commission, I think 3 or 4 senators, state reps. So this, at the last minute, they kept the candy bar bingo game, but it had to be free because any gambling is against the law. There's fines and penalties and stuff. So what they decided to do was keep it advertised. It was successful, and then this gentleman stepped up. I think Unique Sales. That was
George Morrison.
George Morrison stepped up at the last minute to give this money. So very appreciated at last minute. So further discussion. All those in favor? Motion all those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Long meeting.
Yes.
Any other, yes, Barry?
No questions after 11 o'clock, by the way.
Is it 11 already?
Almost. 5 minutes out.
Jeez, you guys are gonna kill me. Barry Dunal, Fox Reporter newspaper. Just to clarify, Chris mentioned, Chris, the concession stands you have, those are the ones at San Burns Field, correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, just want to make sure on that. Also, it's 10 permits that are being requested, because in the documents it says 9, but
It's
then you
9.
count up the nine and that.
It's 9.
It's 9?
Yeah.
But it says there's 3 for,
Hold on.
let's get the map here, because it says for downtown, 1 all alcohol, 2 additional all alcohol, total 3. Then for 1 all alcohol and 2 additional alcohol for Route 140 and Foxborough Boulevard. And then for Route 1, it says 4. So that would be 10.
It's 3.
I had 3, 3, and 4, so I had 10.
Hold on. It might be 10.
Like 9 all
Oh,
alcohol,
9,
1
9,
package store?
yeah, 9 on premises, all alcohol, 1 package store.
9 okay. That's
that
so
clarifies
9,
it, yeah.
so 1 package store and
Right.
then 9 all alcohol.
9 all alcohol.
9 pouring licenses.
Yep.
9 pouring licenses. Just put that down. Since my brain's
Confused
about
me.
to Shut. 9 pouring. Then lastly, node-wise, The two nodes that were approved at the special town meeting for Foxborough Plaza, which,
With one node,
Uh,
two licenses.
yeah, the two licenses for one node.
That's in.
Right.
okay.
But that is part of
The 140.
Foxfield
the
Plaza.
140
So
node. That
that's part of
includes,
the-
that goes from Bradley's Plaza all the way down.
So that's a part of the 140 node?
Yes.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
why was the decision made to not do additional licenses for Chestnut Green? Is it just because they have one outstanding?
They have one
They have one
outstanding.
already. They don't have, there's no need for one.
Excellent. That's what I figured. All right. Thank you very much. We'll get some rest.
All right.
Thanks for your clerical help earlier, too.
It's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
problem. Believe me, if I don't have to report about
Actually,
you
saved us
guys
from going
breaking the
crazy.
law, I would rather not.
All right, motion made to close the public meeting. Second, motion was made, second, and further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Thanks, guys. A lot of stuff to sign tonight.